This episode is brought to you by Lone Wolf Paintball. They are an amazing online supplier and have been around since the beginning of the game as Michigan's premier paintball field and paintball supplier since 1987. They are rapidly expanding into the online retail space and supplying everything you need to be the best paintball player you can be. They have got it all. Head over to lonewolfpaintball.com and shop all of your favorite brands. And they also boast amazing customer service and will have this out to you with same-day shipping, which is amazing. It's always nice to know that your stuff is on its way immediately so you can start to use it that very next weekend of play. Check out their YouTube, Lone Wolf Paintball, and their Instagram @LoneWolfPB, and stay up to date with all of their deals and sales. Play the Game podcast is immensely honored to have them on board, and we cannot wait for you guys to check out lonewolfpaintball.com and become a part of their community. Today's episode of PTG is brought to you by the one and only Trans Labs that brought the world two amazing products. First off, Transfuse, which is a hydration multiplier, and most recently they just dropped Transcend, which is a nootropic energy formula. No matter what you use, when you choose Trans Labs, you are going to be boosted and you are going to be ready to charge the paintball field and win out there. With Transfuse, that is a premium rapid hydration multiplier and immunity fortifying formula scientifically designed to replenish you at the cellular level. And they use all natural ingredients in this product. We've got zinc, we've got vitamin B6, we've got vitamin C, sodium, potassium, choline, and it is an amazing way to make sure that you're hydrated and prepared to play top-level paintball. When it comes to Transcend, that is a premium nootropic energy formula designed to increase cognitive performance, elevate mood and clarity while supporting long-term brain health, and it's going to leave you feeling great with no crash or jitters. It's one of the only products in the nootropic space backed by research studies to ensure the formula is correct for optimal performance. It is more potent than anything on the market, and it will keep you charged and ready to win out there. I take 1 scoop, but if you're stimulant sensitive, take a half scoop, and if you want that LFG dose to launch to the moon, dump 2 scoops in your drink and you are going to be flying down that paintball field. Comes in 2 delicious flavors, Baja Blast and Skittles Candy for the Transcend. And for the Transfuse, they have 2 new flavors as well, Pineapple Express and Hawaiian Punched. So if you get a chance, head over to translabs.com. That's TRANZLABS.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME and you'll get 10% off. If you subscribe to a monthly delivery service, you also get 10% off as well. So you could take advantage of 20% off on these products. Head over to translabs.com and give it a go.
What's going on, PTG fam? This episode is an absolute banger. We have none other than Justin J-Rab Rabackoff, and we cannot wait for you guys to hear this. Getting to sit down with J-Rab through all this madness right now is one of the truly greatest episodes we've had to date. Not only about all the stuff going on with Latin Saints and Edmonton Impact and him and Mouse going back to the team, but just having J-Rab's story on here in general, one of the greatest to ever do it, was really quite a pleasure. So, again, without further ado, not going to waste any more of your guys' time. Let's hop in the show.
That was an insane inside move by Marcelo Margot. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon. Great shot by all the guys. So Tyler Harmon saved that game.
He came out with 2 wins. Marcelo Margot was on fire.
All right, worldwide premiere on PTG. We got the one and only Justin Rabackoff.
Yeah, baby.
The man, the myth, the legend, one of the goats of paintball, one of the best to ever play in this game. And we're super honored to have you on the show. And, get your scoop on everything that's going on. I know things have been crazy for you, but we're super honored to have you and just grateful for you as a paintball player. So how's everything with you? Where are you tuning in from, dude?
Well, obviously my home, my bedroom here, you can see in Florida, but thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming since I could get on the episode with you guys.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to be here, and I'm happy to spill the beans on everything that's been going on as well. I'm sure you guys will love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
dude.
Crazy times.
Crazy times, man. Paintball has been incredibly exciting over the last year. A lot of changes, a lot of big moves in the off season, and then now just even crazier news coming to the league.
Uh, yeah, and it's not good news either. Like, you know how like
No.
some people are like, "Oh, all press is good press." No, this is actually like terrible press. Like for paintball as a whole, like it just sucks. Like the whole thing is just the way it happened, the way it's gone down. It just makes it looks bad, and
Totally.
that's kind of like more why I'm upset about the whole thing. Because we've done this for so long and we want to see like strides from year over year. We don't want like the
Mhm.
same things happening, every year in paintball. We want to see it grow. Like for people who come after us, we want it to just see it better. Right? This is our baby. Like this is what we've done for our entire lives. So like for me it's more heartbreaking in terms of like the future of the sport and just like how we wanted to see it progress. Like this was a
Mhm.
big leap for everybody. Like not
Absolutely.
not just the players that were on the team, but for everybody as a whole. And just to see like that 5 steps backwards after we make like that big leap, it just hurts. It hurts the soul, it hurts the heart.
Mhm.
So, dude, I'm just gonna get straight to it. What happened? Like, seriously, where was the breakdown? Why did this all come to fruition to where you guys took second place? I mean,
Yeah.
y'all were in the finals at the very last event, and then I know things got a little bit crazy rolling into Texas. I'm sure we'll get into that, and then obviously where we're at today with public news breaking about it everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody has so many questions about what's going on.
So I'll break it down. I'll go back like a little bit further from where I was making the decision. Um, And to be honest, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave Impact. Like Impact has been my home forever, and I honestly
Mhm.
thought that I would retire there. Like seriously.
Well, it's never too late, dude. How many years did you play with them, with
I think
Impact?
it's 7 now or 6. I think yeah, I
Okay.
think it's 7.
Wow.
So it's
Awesome.
it's been a long time, and now that I'm back, like I'm more relieved than anything. But again, okay, so going back, I didn't want to leave. And Mouse and Kyle, they called me and they convinced me. The biggest thing was like for me and I knew the whole time like the risk that I was taking. It's like, okay, we don't know where this guy came from. We don't know who he is and anything really. Like we
Of
didn't
course.
have any details. It was kind of just like hearsay from like somebody here kind of knew him, somebody here played with him, and it's like there was just like a lot of like uncertainty. And like to me, like I didn't really like that.
Mhm.
So when I talked to him on the phone, like I really tried to like break everything down and like really trying to get more of like behind the scenes, like what he does, like where he comes from, like the businesses that he owns, like and literally went in and did my research, looked up the businesses, tried to figure out exactly like where he came from. Is this money legit? Because like that's like the biggest risk. Like for me, like I'm literally leaving
Absolutely.
my family. I'm leaving my home. And I'm uprooting my life to go to this team. Yeah, sure. Like I know the people there. I'm really good friends with them. But like to me, it was a much bigger decision than just like taking a paycheck.
Mhm.
Well, just so everybody's clear, this man sitting on the screen on your earbuds right now officially holds the record for the highest amount, that was offered and
That was
accepted by a.
promised.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
regardless,
Yeah.
it's still an accolade. It's still something, that still goes in the book when you write out the history of how it all played out, and it's an accomplishment, and you deserve everything, dude. You've worked your butt off to be the player that you are. So major props to you for all the
Appreciate
success.
that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But
But
I know you were on a roll there.
yeah, so the whole thing, like I said, I broke everything down and did my due diligence and then decided like with all the risk factored in that it was the right decision. Um and I don't have any regrets about the decision that I made, obviously. Like it sucks, but I did everything that I did, factored everything in, knew the risks that I was walking into, and so like the only one that can be upset is me, like at myself,
Mhm.
right, for the
Mhm.
decision. But I already knew, so like there's nothing to really be upset about. Okay, so fast forward a little bit, we all had signing bonuses, whether it was everybody had like whatever they agreed to. Mouse getting, the biggest chunk of the signing bonuses. So I guess in the end, he was the smartest.
Oh, wow.
Totally. Mouse is sitting great right now.
Yeah, Mouse is sitting pretty good because he got paid more than what most paintball players make in the year in his signing bonus. So obviously, congrats to him. But we all got little small like signing bonuses, whatever everybody worked out. So we all got paid like a little bit at the end of the at the beginning of the year to go into the first event. And so going in, like we had problems like into the first event. I was like, so the deal that I made was getting paid on the first of every month. Cause like the way that I've set up like my bills and how I have to pay everything is like on the 4th of every month. So that gives me like a little leeway of like, okay, if something happens, gives me like 4 days. Right. So I was like, this needs to happen like the first of every month. I worked that into the contract and like, that's how I need to be paid. And even at the very beginning, like red flags were already being thrown up. And I was very outspoken about this, like right from the beginning. I was like, look, this is not working for me. I was like, you got to figure out a better plan. And I think at the beginning, he just didn't know. He's never run a team before. Right. So he didn't know how, I guess, to do it. Right. He didn't know how to
rental cars, booking
pull
hotels,
this money. Like all of it. Rental cars, hotels, flights. Like I was like, okay, who's booking flights? Do we have like any other team? You have someone either that does it or everyone books their flights and then the team expenses, whatever it may be. But every team has their own format and formula to how the team is run. There was none of that. It was chaos from jump. Like we had no structure, and honestly,
how did it work out?
So a lot of it relied on A-Rod, and he was probably the worst person to do a lot of it, but he actually stepped up and he did a good job. Which at the end of the day really sucked for him because he was in the hole. He put a lot of it on his own cards, and he didn't. I think he's still owed for stuff that he racked up bills on
for the team.
For the team. Like he was buying waters. He put some stuff like for food on there, like the grocery store stuff, like all the things like during the event, like anything that we were like, hey, we need this. He was like, okay, I guess I'm putting it on my card. Cause I was like privy to it like early that I was like, okay, I even told him like straight from jump. Yeah. He was like, okay, book your own ticket. And I texted him like personally outside of the group chat. And I was like, hey, look, I'm not getting my own tickets. You're going to have to buy my tickets. Cause I was like, I've seen expense stuff like this before. And again, I told you, I was already ready to go in, like understanding the risks. So I didn't have to put any of these expenses on my stuff. Like I was smart about it.
Real quick, Justin, you know what I think has made you and I, Tyler, maybe you as well, but definitely you and I, Justin, privy to this kind of stuff. I believe it's from traveling internationally. You deal with this sometimes when you get picked up to play on like international teams, and there's all these promises, and then you get there and you've got like you don't even have a bed, you're sleeping on a couch, like all of the kind of finagling
it all goes
I've
out.
seen. And so now I'm always super hesitant with like any sort of deal. I see the signs, as soon as like someone can't do this, I'm like, okay, hold on. There's a reason you can't do this. There's a reason you're not doing that. And so I'm really paranoid about that stuff too.
No, that's a really good point. And I think that you're exactly right. That's why I was kind of like going into it like hesitant, because I've been burned before by many times from a professional team and from like just doing clinics, going on trips like you said. I've been burned before, so I did get burned, but I wasn't. At least it wasn't a raging fire. It was just like a small little burn. And I'm okay with that. You walk away from those, but 3rd-degree burns are tough to come back from.
This actually, this goes perfect with our PTG World chat. We got It's KO, and he's saying, at what point did you start questioning, or feeling like something was wrong? Sounds like, pretty early.
It was pretty early. I'll get into some more of the nitty gritty details that you guys will really love, but we went to the first practice and I didn't get any money. and I was like, okay, like, this isn't okay. Like, we couldn't even charge like waters to the room. Like, hey, we need waters. Like, we have no waters here. No one's going to get waters. Like, we would look to, like, for instance, for on Impact, like for Bart and Dave, like they're the people that they're the glue, right? And we didn't have anyone to do that. So it was like, hey, we need, like, on Sunday at the tournament, we were like, hey, we need some food going into these games. We need something. And we're looking at him to get food, and he's like, okay, like, yeah, sure. And I went to him and I was like, look,
Yeah.
I was like, you have to go get food for us. Like, we need, my guys, they need to eat. Like, we're going into the finals with no food. Like, you got to feed us. And he was like, okay, I'll go get some food. Like, he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
So, like,
Dude, I'm gonna send you some Garden of Life bars. They're the magic.
I was gonna say, we get super spoiled, dude. We didn't have Vic in Dallas, and our whole team, Dynasty, was all in shambles. We're like, where's our water? Where's our food? Where's this?
You need a guy like Vic. You need someone like he's that glue. Because
glue.
Like, no one else. No, it's a tough job, right? And it's a thankless job. Like, someone going to get waters and getting you like sandwiches when you need that energy, and making sure that you are okay at all times of the day, making sure that you're ready to go, so that you, as a player, as a professional, only have to focus on your job and the game.
Totally.
And I'm sure Dynasty handles that well. I'm sure Heat handles that perfectly well. Impact's another good example.
It's a game changer.
All the top organizations
really
do,
is.
That's
and that's the difference between the professional teams and the teams that are just there. Right? Like, those things matter. Like, at the end of the day, you need to be ready to, just as a professional, to just go out there and do your job, handle your shit. And that's it. That's all you should be focused on. We shouldn't have to worry about paint. We shouldn't have to worry about food. We shouldn't have to worry about our paychecks. Right? Like, these things we shouldn't have to worry about. And we were worried about it from the first practice. So going back, like, at the first practice, I didn't even get a paycheck at the first practice, right? I only got like my small amount, didn't get anything. The second practice,
real quick,
it came.
Justin,
yeah, go ahead.
What was the reason for not getting it at the first practice? Like, obviously, I'm sure you asked.
I don't remember exactly the reasoning there, because there was so many excuses. There was so many, like, false promises, and like, it all just kind of like meshes together now. Like, I remember some few ones, but the first practice, I don't remember exactly what he said was the excuse. But the second practice, I was supposed to get the money as soon as I landed, because I told him, I was like, if I don't get paid, I'm not playing. Like, that's just that's what it is. I came here to do a job, and I cannot do my job if I'm not being compensated for it. Right? As anybody would, as any job like you go to, you expect to be compensated for the work that you put in. So
absolutely,
I went there, and I still ended up playing at the second practice. And
I was there, I think.
Yeah.
So I was out in Florida, right, at Tiki's.
Yeah, that was at Tiki's. That was at Tiki's. And actually, well, no, that would have been our third practice. That would have been our third practice. So the second practice was still in San Antonio. And when I first got there, I was like, hey, do you have the check for me? And he goes, no, but my guy, he's coming on Sunday. He's bringing it across the border. Which to me was another red flag, because right away when I looked him up and I did my research, like, his businesses that he told me about were legit, and they were in Texas.
Houston, right?
So they're in America.
Totally.
So why he would need to ever bring money from across the border made no fucking sense to me at all. Right? It made no sense. So it was like another red flag, just throwing up one after the other. So come Sunday, I'm literally getting ready to get in. Like, the Uber is showing up, and I'm like, hey, like, what is going on with this? Like, I if I go home, I'm not coming back. And he's like, no, the guy's on his way. The guy literally showed up as the Uber was there with the money. Like, as I was getting into the Uber, he shows up, and I was like, oh my God, he's actually here. Because, like, the whole time I didn't believe it. He shows up, pulls in front of the hotel, literally whips it out in like front of the Uber driver. I was like, okay, this guy's gonna kill me now. He sees all this money like I'm being given, and at the time, like it's not that much, right? But still, like you're getting into Uber, like you don't know who to trust. So he hands me over the cash. I put it in my backpack, and then I'm on the way to the airport. So there, it's just like red flag after another. But that was like really the first and only time that I got paid from there, and everything else was kind of like he was like just coming up with excuses like one after another. He even sent us these debit cards. Like he sent me 2 of them, and there was supposed to be money on these. We were given pins. We were supposed to be able to pull money out of these. There was never any money put in, so it's just kind of like one after another, like just like different ways like how he's gonna pay us. But at the end of the day, no money ever came in. Yeah,
Whoa.
no money ever came in.
Now, was there like an issue? So here's the thing to me, and going through, even in my conversations with him preseason and what I'm hearing now, like it's not easy to just get that amount of money out and be able to hand it to people. There has to be documentation. It has to get reported. Like there's logistical issues. I understand that. But like my question is, how did he not foresee that? How was that not something that was...
Dude, this is an emergency on PTG. I got to wipe my son's butt. He just
there you go. Go for it.
I'll be right back. All right.
Hey, real quick for the listeners,
listen to this too. I'll be right back.
For the listeners, we we usually
gravy. Keep going.
Yeah,
don't
we
let
gravy.
me stop this. Let's go.
No, you're good. You're good. All right. Ty's on daddy duties.
Yeah,
but
he's on daddy duty.
Yeah, but like to me, I mean, that's why in our negotiations, I was making sure that it was backed in some other fashion, or like even for the rest of the guys, it's like, okay, can you put people on payroll through the Houston company? Like that's the only way, like that's the only way. And unfortunately, then you get taxed for it. You got to pay your taxes, but is what it is. And honestly, I planned on if you get a big,
when it's that amount of money,
you want to pay taxes.
When it's that amount of money you're paying, you're going to be paying those taxes.
Totally,
and I know we'll get some lashback by like, oh, well, you weren't going to pay your taxes. Okay. Yeah. You're not, some people don't pay on everything, right? Look at Donald Trump. Anyways. At the end of the day, that amount of money,
you got to make sure you have a good.
You need
to
make
sure you have a good accountant. Yeah, you
got
to make sure you have a good accountant. Yeah. Shout out to David Roque, the PTG accountant.
But yeah, like that was because I told him too. I was like, hey, I don't mind being taxed on this. I'm going to tax it myself anyways. Totally. So if it's easier for you to run it through this, then by all means, like I don't care how you do it. Right. As long as it works for me, because I'm gonna tax it all anyways. So like to me, like that wasn't a big deal. And he's like, no, like don't worry, like I'll be able to handle it. And that was like the biggest excuse for a while, for like two months. It was like, hey, I'm having troubles with the accountants, like saying that we can't move all of this money. But it's like to me,
if it's done legally, then you can.
Yeah, but to me, it was like that. It was so stupid because anybody in their right mind that knows anything about money, even like a small amount, knows that you can't move that kind of money without someone saying, hey,
this was work done for me.
You can't do this. You can't do this. Or if you're going to do it, then you need to do it this way.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Correct.
So is it official? Is it done? Is the team done officially? That's
I wouldn't say completely official yet because technically they still have a spot. The spot is still there, and I don't know what they're doing with that spot. I know Kyle doesn't have a team, A-Rod doesn't have a team, Corey doesn't have a team yet, so I don't really know exactly how or what if they're trying to continue over there. I talked to Kyle a little bit about it. There's a lot of like back and forth on what they're trying to do, so like I don't know exactly. I would say that it's done. There's how do you come back from this? How? You don't. You can't. You cannot.
I think they're gonna pull up. They're gonna pull up out in Philly and play some paintball.
Ball out as the Wild Dogs.
If that happens, I'd be really, really, really surprised.
Yeah.
If those guys, there might be a Latin Saints team.
Correct.
It might even be rebranded, right? It might even be rebranded. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know how the
Yeah.
NXL is going to deal with like if that spot is officially owned by Latin Saints for that year and they cannot rebrand. I don't know how that really works.
Of
The
course.
I
inner
think
workings with
it's
that.
a $5,000 name change, maybe
Oh, to
10.
change it like
Yeah,
a
to change the
fine.
name. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. But the thing about that spot, and so, there's talks of like Blast Camp or one of the semi-pro teams buying the
Yeah.
spot. It's a great time for if your
Yeah.
goal is to buy a spot, there's no better time because you're guaranteed 2 years pretty much. So you
You
can
are.
have the rest of this year, and if you suck, you kind of get used to the speed of the pro division,
Dude,
Right.
you
and then
provided that, Justin, for some,
Yeah,
straight
I
up,
know.
straight up, straight
For the
up.
next people coming, at least I was able to give back something.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's major. That's major.
Yeah.
But the question is, because it sounds like the team was unable to even pay for the things required to compete in the event. Forget the player salaries.
Yeah.
Forget the player salaries. Like, do you think that the team can still play if they wanted to? Was that an issue? Was that the kind of stuff that was being put on personal cards? If I'm asking, too personal stuff, no need to answer. But do you think that the team would still be able to field like if the Latin guys wanted to continue to play?
I would think so. If the Latin guys still wanted to play, I know like the way how the whole fuel thing and the Russian thing, without getting too political, like flights are a lot more
Yeah.
expensive than they were
Yeah.
2 months ago or even a
The
month
flights
ago.
are
Like
crazy right now.
they're crazy expensive. Like even to just go somewhere close on a 30-minute flight, they're way more, like almost double the price a lot of
Yeah.
times.
My ticket
So
to Philly right now is $1,300.
yeah, it's insane. And normally that ticket would probably be $450, $400 from San Diego to
Right.
Philly or whatever it
Yeah,
is, LA to
totally.
Philly. So for them, I don't know, because like flying from Puerto Rico to the States, I'm sure is probably pretty expensive for them. So I don't know if they're going to be able to swing it. But in terms of like the inner workings of the team, I just don't know if they would be able to field a team properly and do well. It's going to be
Yeah,
they got a
totally.
long road if they're going to do it. Like if they
I'm
try to
just
do it, I have full respect for them, but like they are working on a on a treadmill, right? Like
I'm
you don't go anywhere.
They balled
I'm
out,
just
though.
curious at
Hey, at
like
the
what
last tournament,
level
Yeah.
they balled
I'm
out.
just curious at what level this catastrophe was, like I said, like did he just completely overestimate and can't come through on any of his promises, or is it the salaries that do require logistical issues with like, getting over $10,000? Again, like you said, it should all be done legitimately, but if you're trying to
Yeah.
bring over cash, I understand there's an issue. So is it the salaries, or is it just, did he just not have it at all? I mean, to me, it's just so crazy.
It seems like he didn't have it at all. And like, okay, look,
Wow.
this is me just speaking from, I don't have facts on this.
Yeah.
Without trying to completely badmouth him, I just think that he is a rich kid from his dad's money. And I think that he thought that he can give out all of this money because his family is really well off.
Mhm.
Right? If you look it up and like what their business does, and
Totally.
they have the money.
Yeah.
I just think that dad said no,
Wow.
and that's what happened. That's
Interesting.
my opinion
Yeah.
on the matter. Because like, what else could it be? Like, why would you give out a little bit of money here and there? Like, he still dished out
He
quite a
still
bit of.
spent a ton of
He
money
still spent some
yeah.
money, and then just to give up. Like, why? Like, there you have
Something
to
had to
find yourself asking why, and like we don't have those answers. Like, as much as I would like to call him and be like, hey, look, why, sit him down? Like, why didn't you? I'm just past that point with him.
Yeah.
I really am past that point. Like, one of the big, like, what I'm really sad about is like Alvaro, one of the Puerto Rican guys, he
Right.
booked the house that we got in Orlando, the expensive house that we booked for
Yeah.
fucking a week and a half, all
Yeah.
on his card, and never got paid back for it. He just ate
Oh
that.
no.
I know, and it's like a lot
Yeah.
of that. Like a lot of us, like since this, like I've only been paid like it's May now, right? It's almost June. I've been paid a little bit of the money, and so I've been working off, literally living off just that for 5, almost 6 months. Like I'm starting to put money on my credit cards because just to pay for my bills. Like to me, like it's
Jesus.
a complete setback. Like so,
Yeah,
like
totally.
a lot of people are like having to do that, and like it just sucks. Like I honestly, A-Rod got it. He got it the worst. So he really did get it the worst. I mean, he put a lot of the expenses and a lot of the team stuff on his own cards on his personal account.
Whew, that's heavy stuff, man. That's a huge bummer. It's like you said when you started out, Justin. It's a huge bummer for paintball as a whole.
Yeah,
You know, like I was rooting for Diego and the Latin Saints. Obviously,
yeah,
anytime, if we were to match up, obviously that's not the case, but you know what I mean. As a professional paintball player, you want to root for that. Like you said, that's a leap. It was such a
right.
big leap for you guys to get those salaries this year and to kind of raise the bar. And I hated seeing all the naysayers saying, "Oh, they're not worth that. They're not this." Pro paintball, dude. Reality check. Somebody is worth whatever anybody's willing to pay. Something is worth whatever anybody is willing to pay, period. And the amount of time and effort and sacrifice that goes into what we do, we should be compensated appropriately. And so seeing that,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it was going to raise the bar across the board. And
hmm
it's definitely, man, I mean, it is a setback and it's a huge bummer.
That was a lot of like one of the big factors of why like I've like if you ask anyone in terms of like anyone who knows me, like I don't, yes, I like to be compensated for work, but I am not taking like the most paycheck to go play with whoever. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been with Impact for the past 7 years. I've gotten offers well over what they're paying me, double of what they're paying me, and I've turned it down because I'm a loyal guy and I want to stay with the team that I think has the best chance to do that. And like that, like right, that's my family. So
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
me, one of the biggest factors was this is just such a big leap for paintball in terms of like propelling everybody forward and kind of like telling the owners like, hey, we should be compensated just a little bit more, even if it's a little bit more, because that bumps everybody up, right? There's only a few teams, not, well, more than a few teams that pay their players. Everybody else, they're not paying to get they're not paying their players.
Right.
So
Right.
like
Some of these players
that's
are paying for their flights to
yeah,
event,
a
like
lot of
they're
yeah. So like that to
crazy.
me, it was another way to just help propel paintball forward, even if it was a little bit. And
Mhm.
and maybe sure, for the naysayers, maybe it was a little bit overpriced, right? But that's not the point. The point is being able to just push it a little bit further to help
Mhm.
everybody in the sport and the people that are coming up. We want those people, like these kids playing, like for me and you, all of us sitting here, for us when we were kids, the big thing was Oliver getting paid from
Totally.
Iron Man and Die the $100,000. That was the biggest thing we've ever seen in our entire lives, and it made us excited. It wasn't really about the money. It was more of that. This is a thing that we can make. Like that we can make a life for ourselves in this sport, and that's what we're chasing. So when something like this happens, it's exciting for everybody, not for the people that are on the team, for paintball as a whole. So
Well,
for it
then
to
it
for
sounds
it
you
to
said you
yeah.
got offered 200K?
No, I got offered 120.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying you were saying like you've been offered double, then yeah, like push it. Like you
Oh
know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Well,
what made it
absolutely. If it was
what made
200K is
yeah,
that's a big chunk.
what made this decision so appetizing for you? Was it the friends, like going with all your best friends, and was that, and then just, I mean, obviously you guys stepped onto the field, you played phenomenal paintball as you guys do, you're top level paintball players, but it had to have been that camaraderie and all being together on this monumental leap that probably was the most appetizing, I would assume.
So for me, for me, it was a little bit selfish, right? And I'll be honest. I'll be honest about that. And why I say it was selfish, because I wanted to be able to leave Impact, go to a brand new team, that team that has no name, no hardware, no wins, no nothing. Literally start from scratch and build a championship team. Did I think going into the first event we would make finals? honestly, come the first practice, I didn't even think we were to make Sunday. But to me, like, that was the biggest factor. Obviously, there was a million
Yeah,
factors,
of course, of
but the
course. The
biggest
challenge, though.
factor it was the challenge. Like, it.
Yeah.
Look, I've won everything there is to win. I've won MVPs. I've won World Cups. I've won World Cup MVPs, Finals MVPs, Top Gun Awards. I've won everything there is to win. Gone to Europe, won championships. So to me, this was another challenge to be able to literally to for myself to bring myself to another level. And like, that was a challenge. Can I do this as a player? Can I do this as a leader? So when I say it's for selfish reasons, sure, I was thinking for myself in terms of I need to be able to show the world that I can do this. Right. And so like, that was like one of the biggest factors for me, like leaving and proving to myself that I can do this. Right. And so
Uh-huh.
it sucks that we weren't able to continue it, but that challenge to me, like, I feel like to myself, I was able to prove to myself and everybody else that, hey, I can do this. Right. So like, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, you guys performed, and it was largely on the backs of you and Mouse on that side,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's
Yeah.
the world saw, everybody saw, man, and to be completely honest, though, Justin, I mean, I feel like as one of your peers, I feel like you've already kind of done that with Impact. Maybe you don't take as much credit for it as you should, but I think a lot of the world does recognize you in that role with Impact. Truly do, you
I
know.
think you might be in the minority for that. I don't know if a lot of people would give me credit for the success of Impact, because there was like there's a lot more factored in terms of why Impact was so successful, and it can't really rest on my
On
shoulders
one
alone,
person.
because
Yeah, I feel that.
there's a lot more inner working. Without going into
I'll be
complete
right
detail,
back,
there's
guys.
a lot more inner workings and how that works and how it's structured.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
honestly, like, even for myself, like, I wouldn't be honest if I would try to take any sort of credit for, like, the success of Impact. I was just another player
That's
on that
fair.
team.
I hear you. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a machine, right? And you
Yeah.
have a team manager, you have Dave Baines, one of the greatest coaches of all time. You have other stars around you. You have Mouse, you know.
Yeah.
But again, as far as a leadership role, you know, like even when Oliver went to the Ironmen, you know, and it was kind of a gutted team, there was still a ton of structure. You know, you have a whole
Yeah.
machine behind the team. You have Billy Wing. You still had the, you know, like what Impact does, but Oliver got
Right.
all the credit for that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I don't think it's too different, to be honest, but I understand wanting that challenge in a completely new situation. It's almost like, you know, when you, again, I relate it to going and guesting in Europe or in Australia or something where you're the only, you know, you're the guy. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, that team
Yeah.
success is truly on your shoulders. You gotta
It
tell them,
really
hey,
is.
we need waters at 2 p.m. We got to check
Yeah.
in at 2:30. We got to
You're
do this.
chalking up game plans. You're literally doing everything for
Yeah.
this team, like
Yeah.
from front to back. Like, you're management, player, coach. You're everything.
Yeah.
Waterboy, you are
Yeah.
everything when it goes to, like, when you go to those other, when you go to Mexico and play, or Venezuela,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Like, you are management, owner,
Yeah.
coach, player.
Totally.
You're
Totally.
everything.
Sometimes it's best to stay off of Facebook. We learned that the hard way together over in Australia.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Holy shit.
A lot of
What happened on Facebook?
For the
mistakes that
listeners,
were made. Yeah, you go ahead, tell the story.
Justin and I got to play. Greg Sewers played with us that weekend, right? It was us three.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we went over to Australia, played the Super Sevens a long time ago. Again, 09. This is like 13 years ago. And this was when you were on the Russians still. And it was funny. I don't know why, but I was wearing your jersey and shooting one of the, so you have to use a field gun when you go over there. Now it's a little
Yeah.
easier. It's gotten better. It's easier to get a paintball gun license. But so I was using a Ego. I think that's what they were, which is what the Russians were using back then.
Yeah.
And we were playing this tournament, and it was like, I've never seen so many unwarranted penalties thrown. And Justin and I were playing together on the snake side, both in you know, Justin's jersey, and it was just relentless. Penalty after penalty, pulling Justin, then me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Justin, are you like?
We would literally break out. Nothing would happen. Penalties thrown everywhere. 3-for-1s on 3-for-1s on me. 2-for-1s on him. It was literally like the game was over in like 5 seconds.
It was unbelievable. And so I remember, and they called themselves Refs Inc. back then. Like they were a crew over there. It was a gang. It was a gang in Australia.
Yeah.
And the head ref comes over and he's like kind of just laughing, being bodacious about it. Why can't I say that word? It's not bodacious.
Bodacious?
Braggadocious. My goodness.
There it is. He finally
there
got
it is. Braggadocious. He's being super braggadocious about it. And he's like, this will teach you, mate. Next time you want to go on Facebook and talk about, the reffing over here. Because I think Justin had posted something like, here in Australia.
I'll break it down.
Okay.
First off, I was young. I was young at the time. I was really young at the time. Not humble at all. Privileged, literally a prima donna. Like this was like me at my worst in terms of paintball, and like thinking that I was the hottest shit to ever hit the sport. This is like when I first started winning tournaments. Like I was the worst person. I wouldn't even want to be friends with me if I were to go back. Like I was bad. But I posted on Facebook and I said my exact words were like something like this dog shit tournament or something like that.
That's right.
And they obviously took it personal because I'm talking about like their tournament, right? Like they're running it and like they're doing the best that they can do. And like that's how much of a piece of shit I was, right? To just like to shit all over these guys for doing their best. And like it obviously makes me sound bad, and I was bad, but they threw penalty after penalty after reading that, and we were like, hey, look, I had to apologize. I'm like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It was a huge mistake. I feel so bad, but please, can you guys call a fair game for the rest of the tournament? Like, please. Yeah. They ended up like accepting the apology, and we ended up winning the event. We lost like 3 games in a row because of those penalties.
Totally,
dude. I think
we beat.
I still
Ryan,
think about that story sometimes.
Do you? It's like one of those good kind of lessons. You know what I mean?
It's a humbling lesson. It's a very humbling lesson.
Totally. That was a fun trip. Actually, you remember the night at the bar before we even got to the tournament, and we had, okay, this is great too, because back then, like, internet internationally just wasn't a thing. So if you didn't have a special plan, you're kind of hosed as far as like getting a hold of people. The only chance you had was like using someone's phone and getting on Facebook and messaging them that way. It was like a real pain in the butt. And so we were at a bar, and the owner of the team that brought us there wanted to go home early. I don't think he was drinking. So he left me, Justin, and Greg Sewers there. And he wrote on a piece of paper the address to his hotel so we get a taxi, and gave it to Justin. And, so we sit down, we meet some girls, and the girls are like super friendly. Australians are amazing, by the way. They're just so friendly. They love to have a good time. They love Americans. It's a good time. So anyway, the night's ending. We're getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden, Justin's like, I threw away the address.
Like I thought it was a receipt or something.
Yeah. We have no way of getting a hold of this guy. We don't even have his phone number. We didn't have his number. We had a flight the next day to fly to the East Coast. So we were going from Australia to Perth, or I think the West Coast. So we were going from Geelong, which is like 2 hours outside of Melbourne or something like that, all the way over to Perth the next day.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get a hold of this guy. So long story short, the girls invited us over. We got to, they hosted us and made sure that we were able to use a computer, get a hold of the guy. And in the morning, he ended up coming to get us, and it all worked out. But oh my God, dude, that was a fun
traveling
time.
When you're young is wild times.
It's wild.
It's super wild. I have countless stories like that. It's like falling asleep under a bed during a tournament and like showing up without a gear bag. Like some of those, like I have so many like crazy stories like that. Actually, one more thing. Well, before we completely get off the topic of the Diego thing, for me, the tip I just want to say, because like this is like super important for me, and I feel like everybody should know, like the tipping point for me that I was like, okay, like I am pretty much done with this, was at the tournament. He gave me the check for second place as my payment, like to pay me. Yeah,
Oh
and like
my god.
once I got that, and I was like, okay, like this, like that was like the almost like
Seen
final
it.
red flag. Like
Yeah.
where you're in that relationship and you see so many red flags, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I think I could stick with her. I think I can stay around for her. Like it's not so bad. Like I think I can get over these red flags, right? But then like that was the final red flag where you're like, okay, I can't do it anymore. I like there's no way I'm getting paid. Like he's literally paying me in the paycheck of the winnings that we got for second place.
Dude,
Damn. And
that's gnarly.
so,
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. But I still want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and like I don't feel like he promised stuff he couldn't pull through on. I wanna believe that like he really just ran into issues that he didn't foresee. But I also, if you have that kind of money, there's no way you don't foresee those kind of issues.
Yeah.
With being able to get money in that amount to your players, and even doing it you know, legally. There's just so many ways that it could have worked out. But I also, it's just mind blowing to me because how does he go on, all the different shows, and he has said, I'm here for a long time, and all the promises
Yeah.
that he made. If he thought there was any doubt, like how do you do that if you think there's any doubt that it's gonna go through?
The thing is, Marcelo, I gave him the benefit of the doubt for 4 months. I backed him. I talked to him on the phone. Like everybody came to me and like, hey, you got to talk to him. Like I'm getting phone calls from Kyle, from A-Rod, from Mouse. Like you got to talk to him. You got to handle this. Like this is somehow it became my job. But all of it like fell on my shoulders. Like, hey, like and I backed him, right? I trusted him, and I literally went back to my guys and I was like, hey, look, we're in this. We're gonna continue. We're gonna trust that he's gonna do the right things for us. He's gonna pull through. Like I put my neck out for him. So like God, it rubs me just such the wrong way to just still think about it because
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
pushed it.
yeah.
I've pushed it down
You
now and I pushed
tried.
it out of
Yeah,
out of my head. So like continuing to honestly I haven't had a conversation like talking out loud about it yet. So
sure.
like I think a lot of like those feelings are like starting to come up now. I feel like I'm in a
Yeah.
therapy session, right? I'm getting a lot of it out right now. So a lot of it like I stuck my neck out for him in front of the guys and like, hey, like he's gonna be there for us. He's gonna do what he needs to do. Like I trusted him, and like to me, like I was just more let down. Like when you trust someone so hugely like that, for it to go the other way, it's heartbreaking. Like it sucks. Like that stuff will wear on you, right? So like being able to trust someone, like put full faith into someone and like what they're saying, and then like literally go and tell not only your best friends but your guys, like as the leader, like you go in and tell these guys like, hey, this is how it's going to be. You guys stick with me. Like, don't worry. Like, everything's going to come through. Like, going and like putting your neck out for that, and like for it to all like literally like the house of cards just fall right underneath you. Like, it's crushing.
Yeah,
It
shit.
really is crushing. It sucks. And like for a while, like after that, like when I told like everyone that I was done, like I was leaving, like whatever, like it I just kind of like laid in my bed for a while. Like I couldn't get out of bed for like a week because like that stuff like it just wears on you, right? Like something like that
Yeah,
can just wear so deep, and like having like someone like all of those guys put so much trust into you, and then you put all your trust into them, it just falls. And when it falls hard, right? So like it was a lot for me to deal with, like in terms of like leaving and
yeah,
letting the guys down. Like am I letting the guys down? Like is this best for me? Like all the decisions that I had to make to like kind of be the first one to leave the team, because everyone was trying to still stick through it, and I finally gave the ultimatum. And I was like, hey, this was like on a Thursday. And I told him, because it was going back and forth, like the cards were supposed to come, like the money in the cards, like all of these things have been going on for a while. And like eventually, like all these like false promises and the excuses, like they just wear on you. And eventually, like you're just like, you give up on it. And you're like, okay, I'm done. Like you have to give the ultimatum. So when I finally gave the ultimatum, I was like, "Hey, if these cards and this money does not get here by Saturday, by the end of the week, because banks are closed on Sunday, by the end of the week, then I'm out of here. Like, that's it. I cannot do this anymore. And then he pleaded, he called me, he pleaded, and he was like, just give me till Monday and I'll have everything for you on Monday. Monday came, nothing. Obviously, like and I knew,
Yeah.
but like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, am I gonna? It doesn't matter whether I find a team in 1 day or 2 days. No, it didn't matter. So I gave him the time, and that didn't pull through either. And then eventually, like, I was just like, okay, yeah, I got to pull the plug. And then right after that, it was just like everything just like fell apart so fast. Everything fell apart so fast. Kyle's yelling at him, telling him he's a, all kinds of nice words, and like everything just fell apart like instantly. The second that I was like, "Yep, I'm done. I'm out of here. I cannot do it." And like it sucks because like I said, you feel like you're letting everybody down at the same time, but you have to do like I'll be honest, like it was literally wearing my mental out. Like I was literally declining mentally, like going, like just listening to everybody else's problems and like they're in debt. He can't pay for his rent, and like this guy can't do this because we're not getting paid. Like all of that is like falling onto me. And like not only do I have my own shit going on, now I have to carry everyone else's shit too. So like it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to deal with for
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
And like I can't pretend to know what Diego's going through. Like, does he actually have it? You would like to think that he does. And like you said, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to make, like he pays out what he paid out. But why would you do that? But like I gave him
Totally.
the benefit of the doubt for 4
Totally.
months, right? And
Totally. Yeah.
you just give up. Like you give up, and there's nothing left to give. You know?
This has been one of the biggest news stories in paintball history. I mean, over the last decade,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
last 4 months has been just kind of crazy. And I would have never guessed after rolling out of event one, you guys took second place. There is no way I would have ever in my wildest dreams imagined that I would not see you guys at event two, or
yeah.
obviously event three that is rolling into out in Philly next.
Yeah, and it was so weird that no one was really asking questions why we weren't at Dallas. It was just like, oh, the Saints aren't going to be there, and like if anyone who was like really close to us, kind of knew, but like no one really knew. Like we weren't getting phone calls like to, hey, are you leaving? Like, are you like come play for our team? Like there was no phone calls being made before Dallas, so it's like that was so mind-boggling to me, like how that can happen and we don't play Dallas when everyone else is playing
Yeah.
Dallas. We don't go and no one's asking questions. Like that was
Mhm.
kind of like super weird to me that how everything kind of like just went down.
I
But
think subliminally there was kind of like in the fabric of paintball. I think there definitely people's feelers were kind of up, like why
yeah.
why are the Saints not here? And dude, I'm sure obviously as we sit here in this show right now, you're on Edmonton Impact. I'm sure it feels good to be back with your team. How's the
Yeah.
sentiment been joining back with the boys on Impact?
I I was a little bit concerned at first. Like when I was like trying to come up with my decision on which team to go to. Um I wasn't sure if people held grudges or if people, were upset, whatever it may be, that if I were to come back, would it create some sort of weird dynamic? And look, I love that team so much. I was willing to not even go to it if that was going to be a problem. Right. So like to me, like I even like factoring in those decisions was a huge part because I've seen how that team is doing. Sure, they didn't have the best showing. We beat them in the first event, but then they take second in the minor. Slowly, they're starting to progress as a team. They're starting to mesh well. They have a lot of great players, so it was only a matter of time before they start figuring it out. So would it be a problem in the dynamic of me coming back? Like forget about Mouse for a second. Would it be a problem in the dynamic me coming back? And so I factored all those in. And after talking with some of the guys and talking to Bart and Dave, like at the end of the day, it was still the best option for me and for Impact. And from the player standpoint, sure, some people, could be upset about us leaving or hold grudges, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's still business, right? And we are professionals. And if you can't handle yourself in a professional manner on a team, not everyone on your team do you like, right? It's kind of rare that you like every single person at all times of the day on a team. Like that's just how it is, right? That's just the way it is. But we are
But you can
professionals.
respect each other.
Exactly. That mutual respect at the end of the day, you can break bread with that person and you can still, in a professional manner, in a respectful manner, be
Yeah.
teammates with that guy and get the job done. Because at the end of the day, you're there to do a job, right? So, professionally speaking, you do your job and you do what's asked for you, and that's it, right? Can you be best friends with some of these guys? Absolutely. But do you have to be? No, right? So, like from a professional standpoint, you kind of just push it all to the side anyways, and you're like, yep, let's get the job done. We know what they can do on the field. We've seen it. We played with them for years. So let's do that. Right. So I think that no matter what, I think it was going to be the right choice.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I think Impact, getting you and Mouse back is huge. I mean, you guys are strong. The team
Yeah.
has definitely been strengthened. Um, what's that? So what does that put you guys at 11?
It puts us at 11. And when we were talking to Impact and all the other teams that we were talking to, I won't give specifics, but me and Mouse, no matter what, like as soon as everything started falling apart at Saints, we were like, wherever we go, we're going together. Because we know that we can change the outcome of a game. We proved that to ourselves, we proved that to everybody else on the Saints. Like if we go to another team and we were very meticulous in the way that we chose what team we were going to go to because we had quite a few options. Um, but no matter what, we were going to stay together and we were going to go to whatever team together. And then we ended up, landing on Impact. And for us, like as we talked about it, because we went back and forth for hours, I would say we spent more than 12, 14 hours on the phone total, like literally dialing and everything. Okay, is this the right choice? Are these players? Well, what about these players? And like going back and forth, like we did everything that we could to make the right decision. And I think between both of us, between Impact and myself, we made the right decision after going through everything.
Absolutely, man. It's a powerhouse team. And what has Mouse's sentiment been like? Has he been frustrated as well, or kind of just taking it easy on this whole thing?
Mouse is Mouse. He is very non-confrontational, even though it might seem that way. He likes to be
Totally.
confrontational, like he wants to fight, but that's just his emotion as a player. Like if
Yeah,
he wasn't
totally.
doing that, if he wasn't doing the stuff that he does on the field and like talking shit and whatever it may be, I would be worried. I would go to Mouse at the end of the day and be like, "Hey, like, is something wrong? Like, are you good? Like, is family okay? Like, is everything going?" I would make sure, like, as his friend and as a leader, like, I would make sure that he is in the right mindset because that's who he is,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, Mouse is not a confrontational guy. He doesn't want to deal with any of those things. So, like, if he doesn't have to text about it, if he doesn't have to call about it, like, he'll completely like pawn it off on someone else and like, hey, you deal with it, and then I'll make a decision after that. Like he does not want to deal with any of that
I,
stuff. So
I
he
put his deals
literally,
together for years.
yeah, like he even when we were like going through the deals and like talking to, I did all the negotiating for like both our contracts for all the
Oh
teams.
my
Like, hey,
God.
well, what can we
Yeah.
get? Like, this is a package deal. Like, so
Yeah.
like I was negotiating his contract. Okay, like, well, what about
Yeah.
for next year? Everything was done by
Yeah.
me,
That's
and
funny.
so I mean,
That's
that's
Mouse.
who he
It's
is. So
so
like,
Mouse.
yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't want to deal with that. He doesn't want to deal with any of it. So like the whole Diego thing, it's just kind of like he was just like whatever about it. I'll make a decision off of what you guys do, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
So
we're
like
sticking
that's
together. Yeah,
yeah,
was
but
the
yeah,
yeah.
right. So like that. I mean, that's the whole thing. Just kind of like it just sucks, Like when I talk to Kyle on the phone, and like what also sucks is like the relationships that I was building with a lot of those guys. Me and A-Rod on Impact in the previous year, we butted heads. I think a lot of that had to do with like the dynamic between me and Dave and Dave and A-Rod and just like the coach and players and like A-Rod just maybe not being the best fit. I don't know exactly, right? Sometimes it just doesn't work. But that relationship between me and A-Rod was a lot different on the Saints. I didn't really see that side that everyone like talked about, like, oh, he's a bad teammate and whatever. Like at first, he did show signs of that, but he came into his own like after we all sat down and we talked about like our goals as a team and like what we really wanted as a team. Like we did a lot of, I know I've talked a lot about the bad stuff, but we did a lot of like really good things as a team, like how we came together and like the camaraderie that we had, the relationships that I was able to build with a lot of those guys, and like the continuing success even after the Latin Saints that I'll build with those people.
I would really like to highlight that because I saw you
Yeah.
guys really giving it your all, man. Like when I was at X Factor, when I saw you at Tiki's, there was multiple times where, like, straight up, I see you legit like teaching a straight like paintball 101 like
Yeah, like
phonetics
almost
of
like a
how to do
clinic.
it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, damn, they're clocked in and they're really, I could see the intention, I could see, the amount of care in the process of how you
Yeah.
weren't going to give up on anybody, you weren't going to give up on each other, and through thick and thin we're going to make this thing work and we're going to be damn good at it.
Yeah.
So I would like to highlight that process and what that was like, before we kind of move on. And we have a lot of questions just
Mhm.
about you as a player and your career that we want to dig into as well. But yeah, I want to highlight that segment if we can.
So like that was like the biggest thing for us to overcome. When I first got there, Diego, here's another red flag. Diego made it seem like these guys were ready, were pro ready, like the Latin guys.
Mhm.
Um, and they weren't even close. Nothing against them, but they weren't even close in terms of communication, making the right plays, knowing when to do something and when not to. Like paintball IQ was at a minimum. Sure, their gun skills were great. Route running, like all the things that you can work on like by yourself and like all the mechanical stuff. They
That's
they
just
were
price
good.
of
They were
admission, man.
they were dialed in. Yeah, exactly. It's price of admission. But the paintball IQ and honestly a lot of this comes from experience, was just not there, not even a little bit there. So going into the first event, I'm telling myself like, man, we do not have a shot. There's no way we're making Sunday. Like I really went into it. Yes, I did work my ass off, did everything that I did need to do. There was never any doubt coming from my words or coming from my actions to the rest of everybody. But in the back of my head, I'm like, there's no way, right? We're building. We're building here. Like this is a time to build, and that's how I treated it. But you still have to build that foundation, and you have to let these guys know like that confidence that you have in them, even if you don't have it. You got to lie to yourself to lie to everybody else to have that success. And it was from every single day the way we worked harder than everybody else. Yes, we took a second place, but I can confidently say that we worked harder than any other team out there going into the first event. We had 12-hour days, three days in a row, 12 hours where we were playing paintball. 12 hours a day we were playing paintball. There was no downtime. So like again, some of those days we didn't even eat. Like we weren't even getting food. Like God, stuff just still rubs me the wrong way. But we were just working harder than everybody else. It was the hardest that I've worked in 5, 6 years, right? You get a little complacent when you're at the top, right? And that's why people fall from grace. And
I think
that
there's
just
something. I think there's
go
something
ahead.
too, though. I think the type of work that you do does kind of evolve as you get older. There's
Yeah.
different things that I think as athletes, even if you follow the Kobe's, the LeBrons,
Mhm.
things do change in your like. When we were 20, it was about as many reps as possible.
Yeah.
Like that's most important. Now,
Yeah.
personally, it's more of like smarter, not harder, and finding ways
Right.
to manage like motivation with the right preparation. You know, there's different things mentally that you have to tap into to be at your best. That's how I kind of view it now.
I agree to a certain extent. I do believe that a lot of players and a lot of teams, especially at the higher level, have gotten complacent. I mean, maybe
I agree.
you
I
can't speak for
get that.
yourself,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
you can speak for some of your
Yeah.
teammates. I'm sure Tyler can say the same thing.
Yeah.
I've we've been
Oh, we
around.
hungry, boy. We
Yeah.
hungry.
I
Yeah,
hear you. For
we've
sure.
been
Yeah.
around.
I
I
hear you.
know we are.
There's,
I know
yeah.
we
Yeah.
are, but
Yeah.
we can't say the same for everybody,
No, I
right?
hear you.
And
Yeah.
and being able to bring out the best and the motivation from everybody on every day is a struggle. It's hard. Not only do you have to do that individually, you have to muster up that courage and that motivation to be able to go out there and be like, okay, I'm giving it 110% today. Like that is just work in itself just to do that. Right? Being able to do that is an accomplishment on the day. Being able to get up and just give 110% on the day is an accomplishment, right? And you should treat that as such, just an everyday activity. Um, but being able to do that with 10 guys every single day, that's tough. The biggest thing that everyone was able to do is like we knew that we were the underdog. There was nothing resting on our shoulders as like, oh, if we come in and do bad, like okay, yeah, everyone kind of expected that anyways. So like there was no pressure. It was just buying in. Everybody bought in like here's what we're going to do. There was no arguments about it. Everyone bought into the system and we just sprinted through it, right? Like it was pretty amazing to see how quickly everybody bought in, caught on, and we were able to just hit the ground running. Like I don't know if you can do that with many teams. I don't know if I could go to an NRG and be able to say the same. Like I don't know that their mindset. Like just going into that, it was I had doubts about that, and I knew that it was going to be that building year. So it was really cool to just see how that, molded together so quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
got
mean,
to give a major shout out to the B squad. Obviously, you had the starting squad with the all-star lineup at the tournament. I saw them pulling out some stuff. I was like, all right, they've been working. You could tell that
Yeah, they won
what.
some games. I
Yeah,
was actually impressed. Like we were just like, okay, we'll put them in when we need a when we need a break. We'll give them the opportunity, and then hopefully if they get a win, great. But if they don't, okay, well, hopefully we'll put ourselves up at least two, where we can at least still have that cushion. But they were going in and still winning points. They even
yeah.
when we were down, we put them in. They were able to put points on the board when we couldn't. So like it was a team effort all around to get us into Sunday and into the finals. And they actually they showed up to play and they did such a great job and what little they were given, they really produced.
Well, that's a
I'm proud of
testament
all those guys.
to the process, right? That's a testament to the
Yes,
process.
That's a
absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
another big bummer though too, because it was such a huge thing, not just for professional players here in the U.S., but just paintball players as
Yeah.
on a global scale, and
Mhm.
especially in the whole Latin American scene. I mean, that's massive, to have those guys out there performing the way they did.
Yeah.
So, granted, it looks like all of the American superstars aren't going to be on the team anymore. I do hope they find a way to continue to. It would just, I don't know. It would be crazy to me if they did, but I hope they do. Honestly, I hope that they find a way to continue and try to represent in a way. Like,
I hope they do too, because a lot of those guys have a lot of potential to be really good.
sure,
If not great. There's one of them has the potential to be probably one of the best out there, but he needs like someone like us to be able to put him under his wing, and if he doesn't
yeah,
have that, I just don't think that he'd be able to do it.
totally.
So that sucks to be able to. If I hope that he can find a team where he has some structure and he can build, because he could be a really good player.
Who is it? Which one?
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna
Okay,
say.
okay,
I'm not
okay,
gonna say.
okay. All right, all right.
And I think there's a huge lesson to be learned through all this, that like even in the darkest of times or whenever shit hits the fan, to still show love. And like the sooner, obviously this has been crazy, right? This has been crazy.
Yeah,
The sooner that
yeah,
we can move through it, and by God, like it's all love for paintball. If they can field a team and and do the thing, then good luck to them out there on that pro field, and we wish them success. But it's just been like, we got to make sure that we move in the right direction and carry the right energy for the sport, for the game, and just like moving into the future with power. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Justin, so do you think that this should spark any I mean, it's kind of strange, right? This guy was able to come out of nowhere, buy a pro spot, and cause all this chaos, and then also a lot of instability. So do you think maybe there should be some sort of regulations on like, somebody being able to just come in and buy a spot, or it's a tough thing, right?
You would have to assume that the NXL did the same due diligence that I did. If as an individual, if the amount of research and the due diligence that I did before I made the decision to go to that team, you would hope that the organization such as NXL did the same thing, right?
Well, they did. It was just compared to the amount that he invested in the team, getting the pro spot is, not that much.
I mean, what they paid for
but
you still have to look at it long term, right? NXL, like they're still a business, right? And they can't, like, this sucks for them as much as it sucks for us as the players and paintball as a sport and the organization. It still sucks for the NXL because if you're not vetting these people properly before you're just dishing out a spot for whatever money that they paid for it. I think it was like 50 grand for the spot. It's still a long-term thing that if stuff like this happens all the time, it's a huge problem. Like, it's a big problem.
Right.
We're never going to be taken seriously, right? And now, like, this is already a setback as it is. So, like, I would hope, and I'm not going to say that they didn't. I would just hope that they did the same due diligence that I did. And after looking at it, you go, okay, yeah, this guy has the backing. I just don't think it's him. It's not his money, right? He comes from money. I don't think it's his money. Am I speaking like complete facts? No. Like, please don't take the words out of my mouth. Anybody here, take the words out of my mouth and say, oh, whatever. Because I'm sure that can happen. What I'm saying is, I don't know the full truth. This is just my opinion and my speculation of how I believe, it ended up and why we didn't get paid. And because I do think that he wanted to continue it. I mean, he begged me to stay. Like, he called me and he begged me to stay and said, I will get your money. I promise you I'll get your money. It's just like, 4 months of hearing promise after promise and excuse after excuse of why the money didn't come. Like, no one is going to stick around if you work a normal job. If you go and you work a normal job, you work at Starbucks, right?
Totally.
You work at Starbucks. You are going to leave after 1 month of not getting paid, let alone 5 months.
Yeah.
Right. So, like,
absolutely.
we gave him the benefit of the doubt. We put our trust in him. We did everything we could. We stuck around for as long as we could. Almost half a year we stuck around for this guy, and we did give him the benefit of the doubt. And enough was enough. Like, no normal person in any other job would do this for any company. For any company, you're not going to stick around for that long on false promises and excuses.
I wonder if you make some sort of regulation that you have to have had an NXL team for at least 2 years to buy a spot. So some random, individual can't just pay for a pro spot. Like, you got to show that you have
at
the
least
ability
one season
to come to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they played a couple. I think they did play a full season. Actually, they weren't called the Latin Saints, but it was the TJ All Stars, or
no, they were the Wild Dogs. They were the Wild Dogs.
So no, that was before. So Short coached them at World Cup, and they weren't the Wild Dogs. They were not even TJ All Stars. Honestly, I forget the name.
I know a lot of those guys came from Wild Dogs, though.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. But in the NXL, they played the semi-pro division last year. D2. I think it was D2, not semi-pro.
D2,
yeah. As a different group, right? Different name. And so in a way they were there for like half of a season or maybe even a full season. I'm not sure if they were there all of last season. But
speaking of B Short, shout out to B Short and Caitlin. They had kids.
Yeah,
2 twin boys.
There we go.
Yeah, congrats to Short.
Dude,
Yeah,
let's go,
Jordan.
Twins has
Shorty.
got to be rough
but-
as newborns for sure.
I couldn't imagine, but he's a beast. And Caitlin, his wife, they're gonna handle it. It's Brixton and Bowie. That's their names. Huge shout out to Brixton and Bowie. Let's go.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to the Short family. But I don't know. I feel like there has to be some sort of regulation in that. And, we're going to look, paintball's such a new sport too. Everyone expects us to do the same things as the NBA and the NFL. But the reality is we're still learning. And so it's just how it goes. Often you don't change or implement rules that are required until you run into the situation, and so it's no fault of the NXL for not having, in my opinion, it's no fault of the NXL, but now maybe it's like, hey, we got to do a better job or find a way to protect this, kind of situation from happening. One huge bummer to a team like Impact that gets, 4 or 5 of their players taken, right at the start of the season. And that you could argue that shouldn't happen to any team. Maybe there's some sort of, cap that you can only take 2 players from a team in an offseason. I don't know. I'm not a fan of regulating player movement until we at least have a player minimum salary, until there's like it.
What would need to happen first? Because I've actually talked about this in long discussions with, a lot of people, Ryan, your teammate being one of them, and doing a players union. But without everybody getting paid, a players union can't be a thing. It was more of a way to protect our players, right? To protect the players from the league, from the owners. And it's not like they're malicious in their intent,
of course,
but
we just have different
you
goals.
Still need people who are in your corner, and like you're not doing it as yourself. Like in any other sport, you have an agent that takes care of these things, but all of these sports also have players unions, right? This is what's best for the players, but we also have the sport in mind, right? We don't have that, right? It's just the NXL making the decisions, and this was like 3 years ago that I tried to implement this, but it just didn't really pan out because like it's hard to do a players union when not everybody is getting paid.
Well, and to be frank, dude, I mean, because I've tried to do the same thing. Like 7 or 8 years ago, Tim Montresor and I put together a players union kind of thing and got a whole group together, had 1 or 2 players from each team. And we had a Facebook group that was interactive for the first part of it. And players just don't care. And part of that is because a lot of them aren't getting paid. And to some, unfortunately, it might be a hobby, but we have got to start treating this thing like a real sport if we want to be seen and recognized as a real sport, period. You know, and I mean, I don't know that everyone has to get paid in order to have a players union. You just have to have all the players care and buy in and be willing to stand up for the union, right? Ultimately that's what it is. You got to have a bunch of you got to have the players willing to stand on the side of that. And
that was the struggle.
Yeah,
because
totally.
I think that
100%.
even without everybody getting paid, I still think that we should have a players union for things like for rules that are just old and shouldn't be there anymore. Like packets, penalties on packets. I could go down this rabbit hole. We probably shouldn't, but like things like that, like a players union would be successful in like standing up and like saying like, hey, these rules need to be taken out. Like where the players union can literally go through the rule book and be like, look, these are rules of old, right? We need to move up. We need to move on. We need the game to evolve, right? If the teams can evolve the game in the way that the game is played, the organization should be able to do that too. And yeah, they do make small strides. And I'm not bashing them or saying that they're doing the wrong things. I just think that there needs another organization to hold people accountable, right? Without that, again, you get complacent. If you don't have anyone coming for your spot or you're not fearing to lose your spot, you get complacent. You're not going to do all of the right things to make yourself and propel and evolve the game to the next level, right? So like the NXL doesn't need to do that because there's no one to hold them accountable. It's just like that, that's what it is. Like, and here's what it is, and you have to do it, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
100%. I know you didn't play the last event, but what was your sentiment on the blind layout? And do you think that you would
ask him about the blind layout?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Do you think that you would run people over still out there on a blind layout?
Yeah,
for sure.
I've been doing
100%.
blind layouts for a
Yeah.
while. A lot of the Europe trips, like when we were doing
Exactly,
for
yeah.
Millennium. Sure, the layout was out for them 2 weeks and they got to
Yeah,
practice, but we would
yeah,
show up the Thursday
totally.
and practice like the little bit before. It was blind to us.
100%.
Sometimes we didn't
Yeah,
even practice. We were going
yeah,
into the first match without just walking the field, blind layout,
yeah,
where everyone else
yeah.
got to practice 2 weeks before
Foot
and still win the
just
events.
4. They
Yeah.
released it 4 weeks before when
Oh
when we were
yeah,
going over
yeah,
there, 4
yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
These guys had the field for 4 weeks, and we would go over there and, yeah, you practice on Thursday, or
Going
maybe you don't, but you
in
walk the
the
field Thursday
blind.
and play Friday.
Do you
I
think
will
that
say, go
your
ahead.
experience with 7-man, because you've been in the game for a long time, you've played a lot of different formats, you've
Yeah.
done very well at 7-man as well. That has to attribute to your success as a 5-man NXL player as well, being able to really dig into a field quickly, effectively, efficiently, and see the routes, see the pathways, and how to approach it.
I think anyone who played 7-man can confidently go into blind layouts and say, okay, we can break down this field. Like look at Damage. Damage did really well when they were a 7-man team. We won a lot of we won a lot of events when we were playing 7-man on Damage, and any team that did well in 7-man or who was in that era did well in that tournament.
Well,
Right?
not everybody.
Well, except for you, except for you
Yeah,
guys. But
yeah,
but yeah, like so. I think 7-man attributes a lot to the blind layouts and being able to break down
certainly.
the field, and I still believe that's why the best teams and like the most experienced teams, no matter what, blind layout or not, they
Yes,
continue to win. That's why you see
exactly.
the top 4 teams besides the Latin Saints. I mean, yeah, we broke the mold. It was the same teams to win the events and be there on Sunday. And like finally we were able to break the mold, and like another team was able to come in
Dude, bro,
for top 4.
you guys shook the damn world up, man. The paintball world did a backflip, bro.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh my
I think
god.
a lot of that attributes to being able to break down the field. They don't have anyone in those new camps like an experienced player
Yes.
or a coach that has been there who knows how to break down those fields. And sure, those kids and those guys, they might be mechanically skilled or mechanically talented. They just don't know how to break it down. They don't that IQ is just not there yet. Are they getting there?
Mhm,
Yes. Are they
mhm.
closer? Yes. Are they there yet? No.
Oh,
Are
yeah.
they going to be there soon? Maybe. Like we see some of these teams kind of like falling into
Yeah.
their own, like Energy, LVL, like, but they're so inconsistent. They're so wishy-washy. Like
Yeah.
one event we think that they're there and we think that they're there and they're going to stay, and then the next event they just fall apart and you're like, okay, like we can't have confidence in these teams
Come
just
on,
yet.
dude. We're not talking about NYX right now. Shout out to my boys over there.
Yeah, I think a lot of those teams, they just don't have that experience behind them yet. Like
Right.
there's been no player or coach or whatever it is to go to these camps and go, hey, this is how it's done. This is how we do it, and this is how we've had success. Sure, they might get a little bit of piece here and there, and like, oh, I played for this team, I played for this team, but like it's a big picture thing, right? It's a big picture thing.
Yeah.
You can run those drills, but at the end of the day, like you need someone with that experience and that skill and that mindset to be able to go in there and break it down for them. That's how you build those teams up. I think if someone were to go over there and
Right.
onto a team like LVL or a team like NRG, I think that team would skyrocket so fast and they would be in the
Totally.
top 4 consistently all the time if that were to happen.
A team like the ML Kings, I think they're a good example because I think right now they're probably the biggest threat fundamentally, as far as
Yeah.
gunfighting, off the break shooting, that kind of stuff, and even athleticism. And Kyle Berry, I got to give that guy a lot of credit. Honestly, he has done a great job with them. I really got to give him a lot of credit, but they
Yeah.
still do lack that like high level experienced player to really teach them and make the team understand how to, attack certain situations, how
Yeah.
to approach a field, and how like
Mhm.
what the good spots are, how to counter the good spots, how to play in this scenario, that scenario, which is what all of the top teams are doing. And the tough thing is the top teams, like all of us here at what are we in like our 17th pro season? I don't know, something crazy.
Yeah,
It's
crazy.
and we're still kind of young in the game. You still have Ryan, who's been Ryan, Alex, Yosh, even like Archie's a little bit older, Colt, the X Factor guys.
Yeah.
So the experienced players are actually only getting better right now. It's not like they're really phasing out. They're gathering more and more information and applying that. And the ones that are still hungry are at the top. Like the players, the teams that are winning the tournament, it's the experienced players that are still hungry. Period. There's no other way around it. So it's like it is a tough climb for the new teams. Because like
you said exactly that. It's those top players are only bouncing around between the top teams. Imagine if it was shaken. Imagine if it was shaken up and the top 2 players from each team went to a different team, not a top 4 team, a different team. How much that would shake up the league. Like, just think about that, right? You take the top 2 players from each team and you put them like how the NHL does it with expansion teams. It's like the expansion team gets to pick. You get your franchise players, but then they get to pick one player from each team to then build their team, right? Imagine if paintball were to do that. It would completely. You would see it would be overnight. Overnight, you would see a complete change in how everything is done. A complete change, and that would happen overnight. It wouldn't be over a year, over a course of 2 years. The game would change instantly. It would change instantly. But that's just not going to happen. It will never happen that way because you have money involved. I mean, look at Formula One. Formula One is the perfect example of how paintball is run. The best teams and the best cars have the best drivers that spend the most money.
Yeah,
that's just the same cycle. And you have these people on the internet that try to shit all over paintball when it's done in huge organizations like F1, right? It's the same exact thing. The best teams can spend the most money to make their cars the best and have the best drivers driving them.
Totally.
Like that. It's the
same.
To
break it to you, but that's life.
Unfortunately,
that is life. Even in the most regulated sports, basketball, for example, often the teams winning are usually paying a luxury tax because they have gone over their budget.
Baseball. You don't have anyone. You have nobody on social media shit talking those teams and the sport and the organizations and paintball and baseball as a whole or F1. This sucks because Mercedes or Red Bull can pay the best drivers and have the best.
You do. That's why people hate on the Yankees. You always got the haters.
As a whole, as the fan base. Yes, sure, you have a collective, a small collective that. But it seems like the majority of people that anytime anyone talks about movements or whatever, it's like it's always just to bash paintball. Like even the fans continue to bring down the sport, like let alone the players and the organizations. Like forget about the fans, like bringing our sport down. Like if you want to see your best player grow, you want to see your best team grow, why continue to bash on the sport that you so quote unquote love? Why? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I gotta interject because I don't agree. I don't think it's the majority. It feels that way because that's damn social media for you. It just fucking highlights the people that want to get loud. Something funny, right? Dynasty has done pretty well. We won 3 events in a row. Everybody, at least from my viewpoint, my perception is like everyone's a Dynasty fan. Awesome. Things are fucking great. So cool. We go and suck in Dallas. And, when we're winning, I'm not seeing any hate on Dynasty. We suck in Dallas, and all of a sudden, everything on social media is everything that I'm seeing. Is
you guys
slay the dragon, bout time. They're too old. I'm like, yo, you kidding? Where were you guys like the last 3 events?
Well, those are Impact fans. Those are Heat fans. Those are Damage fans saying that. That stuff is different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like as a whole, like paintball as a whole. Like if you love the sport, you can't continue. Like if you look,
but it's a minority.
F1's, I know, but if you go to F1's media, if you go to their media, right, and you scroll through the comments, you won't find a comment like that. You
F1's
won't.
different. That's a whole nother echelon. That's
It
a
is
whole.
it's another echelon, but it's
No, but he's
still
making a good point if
it's
that's the
still the
case.
same in
Yeah.
the way how it's structured in terms of
Mhm.
like best players, best teams, most money. It is what it is, right? That's the way baseball's structured. It's the way Formula One structured. And sure, you have caps, but still, the best teams have the best players because they have the most money. But if you go through their media, their fans are not bashing the teams and bashing the organization. Sure, when Dynasty sucks at
Bro,
an
are you
event,
kidding?
you're going to have the
Dude, no,
other
hey,
teams.
Hey, no, hold on, my man. I'm on the F1 deal right now.
Okay,
right,
all right, let's
motherfucking now.
hear it.
And we gotta post. Oh God, I just pulled it. Okay, and
If they
there's
ain't talking,
straight up
yeah.
stun the world by frauding a win where Mercedes crashed into each other. Ricciardo had a strategy error. Wouldn't have sniffed podium without that in my honest books, dude. It is just the way fucking people on the internet are.
Those are fans going against each other for the teams. I'm talking about as a whole, right? If you go and look at all the social media that's happened about this Latin Saint stuff, like the internet's
It's
going
about
crazy.
paintball's a joke.
Exactly.
I give you that. I give you that.
That
for sure.
does nothing good for us. If you're a fan, like, yes, it sucks, and I'm sure a lot of those people have the same feelings that I have. Like, God damn it, we're taking 5 steps back when we're getting so close.
I will say the internet has been doing backflips off of this thing.
They're doing
with, like,
backflips.
all the you know what I'm talking about, the craziness, the videos,
the
these memes, all this is crazy.
How happy is Pro Paintball Troll? He has a job for another.
Oh my god!
I'm sure they love it. Like, and this isn't gonna die, and like it'll be around for the next month. They'll be making memes about this for the next month. It'll be great for them.
He's actually an avid listener, so if you have anything you want
to say
Pro
Paintball Troll,
to the troll, he's listening.
I think it's Bear DeGidio.
Oh damn!
I think it's Big Bear.
Come
I
on.
think it's Bear DeGidio, bro. It lines up. It makes sense. I think it's Bear.
Dang, I don't know, man. Nobody knows.
Witty,
That's the thing.
I don't pay too much attention to it.
Yeah, they're going
really
they're going crazy, and I'm with you. We gotta boost the game. So, and that's honestly that's the mission of PTG. That's been the mission of us as a coalition of paintball players that play this at the highest level. And everybody who plays this game picks up a marker, goes out and have fun. We got to shed the brightest light. Obviously, when you're at the top of the game, you're the big dog on the court. People are going to always be talking about you, and they're going to let you have it.
Oh,
and that's
absolutely.
So
I've been dealing with that for 20 years.
I'm
used to that. I'm used to that. But it sucks when people are bashing on paintball as a whole, and that's what a lot of this like Latin Saint stuff, like, you're seeing a lot of that happening on social media. If you want to bash me, go for it. I've been used to that for so long. I'm numb to it.
Well, I think a big thing is there's been a lack of information. Nobody knows what's going on. This show actually broadcasting this PTG episode to the world is like the first information that we've had, and hopefully, as we move into the future, we'll be able to, hear from everybody and get their piece of the pie. But it's been a really crazy thing. It's been insane. It's been a mess. I mean, to be honest, and I'm just glad to see that we're moving forward with it. Obviously, I'm praying for the boys that don't have a squad right now. We got to make sure that they find a team to get on and can get out there and play ball, man. That's what it's all about. These guys love playing paintball. At the end of the day, they love this game with all their heart, and we got to make sure that we support them and that they have a place to play paintball.
I do still truly believe, and Rab, don't get me wrong, I'm with you. I hate seeing the negativity on Facebook, Instagram, social media when people just kind of bash the sport. I get your separation amongst team fans against other team fans. That's natural in sports. I totally get what you mean about it being as a community. But even with that, I truly believe that the numbers far outweigh people that are like speaking well and doing the right things about paintball. And it's just so easy. I hate the way social media is because it's so easy to
flawless.
Because that's what gets the views and gets the likes. And so when you see these damn posts, like I remember years back when we did the fundraising thing for Team USA, you remember what a disaster that was?
Yeah.
I'm just like, dude.
But it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that brings us, that continues to bring us down. Like,
I do agree with
those
that.
are the things I'm talking about specifically. Like, that was so heartbreaking. Like, and they're like, oh, well, you guys all get paid by no, it's not this.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not
Right.
like, it's so hard. I don't want to open up that can
Of
of
course,
worms. I'm just
of
talking
course.
about like
Yeah.
as a whole.
We need to do
I
better.
guess you are correct in when you say that the negative people are the most vocal. They really are the most vocal. They're going to be the ones on the social media, because the ones who like truly care, they don't care to go on social media and talk about it. Like they don't. They talk amongst each other and their friends or whoever it is, and like they're super hyped. And we see it when we go to tournaments. We see it when we go to clinics. How hyped and excited everyone is for
Hell
us to
yeah.
be there, just talk about paintball. Like that's the stuff that like really gets me going. Like that's the stuff that gives me that glow, that gives me that excitement, that keeps me doing it. And I
Yeah.
think I was talking to Marcelo right before the show stopped. Like I was like, I gotta delete Instagram. It is so toxic. It's so negative. And it sucks because you can't ask like the people who are positive to go on there and like, hey, go on there and be positive about it, because they're just positive in their everyday life about paintball and how they talk about it with their friends and like going to the field and what they're doing at the field, and like they absolutely love it. And you see those kids and you see like and the everybody, like when they're there, like the glow that they have and the excitement that they have for their sport, that's really what keeps me going. I'm sure it keeps a lot of you guys going and everyone that's listening, right? But just like the complete 180 that you see from like the day-to-day stuff, like going to the clinics and being at the tournaments, like from social media, it just, oh god, it's so
Yeah.
toxic and it sucks so
Can
much.
be,
And
yeah,
like you
yeah.
don't want to see it, because like being like it takes two positives to counteract a negative, right? Like I'm sure you've heard that saying before, and like especially when you play on a professional team, like when someone brings up a negative topic, or it is so hard to like break out of that mold on the day, especially like at a practice. Like if something negative happens and like someone blows up and you guys, it's hard to like break out of that, right? You're like the day is almost ruined, right? You're like, fuck, like you don't really want to be there anymore, and you're like, now you have to deal with this guy. Now these guys are fighting, and like it takes two positives to break out of that negative for the day, and like it's really a difficult thing. But when it's happening consistently over and over and over and over and over, like one as a player, as a human, as a person with like feelings, right? Like yeah, that stuff wears on you over time. So it sucks to see. And like as a like I said, I've become numb to it. I mean, when you are at the top, you are going to continue to get hate no matter what. Whether you can be the coolest guy, the best guy in the world, the most likable guy, people will still hate you for being likable. Like that, it's just the way that's just the way it is. Like you will always have your haters, you always have those bad guys that are going to talk. But when you start talking about the sport that we love as a whole, that's where it kind of like that's where that gets me, right? When you talk about me personally, that'll never bug me. You'll never get underneath my skin. But when you talk about the thing that I love the most in this world, when you see so many people talk about it, that can break someone down, that can wear people down. It just sucks to see. Like you don't want to see
Yeah.
that. So we've worked
Yeah,
so
with you on
hard.
that. Yeah.
We've worked so hard and we've put our blood, sweat, and tears in this. We've been in it for so long, as you said, in the pro scene for 17 years. We only want to see it do well. Like this is our baby, right? This is our livelihood. We can't say that for everybody, but like for me, this is my livelihood. It's what I do. It's like like so like when you just see those things, like it just sucks. Like it's like one of those things, like 5 steps forward, or sorry, 1 step forward and then 5 steps back. Like you don't want to see stuff like that. You don't.
Well, the universe works in mysterious ways, man, and I think that this is a minor setback for an even bigger comeback. And no matter what, paintball is still going to be boosting, and
Half
you know,
glass
Bro,
full.
we're
Half
yeah,
glass full. I'm a
yeah,
half glass empty kind of guy, but I love your optimism. I
yeah.
really do love your optimism.
I think that you can't stop it. You can't stop the
Yeah.
game.
Dude,
Yeah.
Obviously,
the
this is
ball's
good to
rolling.
see. You want to see. I'm sorry this happened to you, brother, but at least people are so interested in
Yeah.
paintball that
Yeah.
this guy came in heavy, heavy. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
there's other people out there that love sports, love this game. Maybe their sons are getting into the paintball scene, and they're gonna come and be coming in heavy too. And like I said, we have to have systems in place to make sure that we can nurture our pro division, nurture the
Right.
players, take care of everybody, and watch this thing flourish, because it's not going anywhere. Paintball is
Yeah.
too much fun. It's too much of a damn riot out there, and people are just having the time of their lives, and it's so good on so many levels. I'm sure you know, like for me, when I go play paintball, no matter what's been going on, the craziness of, whatever, life is
Yeah.
crazy. You
Yeah.
just go play paintball and it just rolls right off you. You come out fresh and you're able
Yeah.
to attack life again and have a zest for it.
I absolutely agree. I hopefully, and I will be optimistic, and I'll be on your side with this. I hope that the league and the teams and the players can learn and move on from this and grow and evolve. I think one of the big things that the NXL could do at the events to make it more interactive. And I know that the paintball combine does like their thing and like trying to bring in fresh talent, but the problem with those is one, they're actually amazing. I have only great things to say about him. Um, but the problem with those, in terms of like, if you are trying to move up, yes, you have your coaches there. You have people like Marcel that go to those things. They're one of the coaches in the clinics, and the teams as a whole, like the majority of the teams, aren't seeing that. The coaches aren't seeing these players. Like, there needs to be a better system in terms of like how, let's say, the
To
NFL
scout
or the
young
NBA to
talent.
scout people like the collegiate level. And yes, we have we have the divisionals, but when was the last time you went over and you watched a divisional game, right? When you're
I
forced to, when
I
they're on
do,
our
yeah.
field, right? And even then, you're worrying about your own stuff because you have to worry about the game ahead of you, right? You have to worry about the finals match that's ahead of you. You're not focusing on these divisional teams playing. You're not watching them. You got other shit going on. You got more things to worry about. I think that the NXL could do a better job in terms of having more structure, in terms of bringing up talent, because at the end of the day, it really
Hmm.
is up to them. It's not up to us, right? Like, the NFL holds a combine for the teams to scout players for the teams to then choose from
Mhm.
those players and have a draft. I'm not saying that we need a draft or anything like that, but
Right.
there could be a better system in play, even if because it is rare that a player gets picked up. Sure, we pick up players here and there, like the top teams will pick up players here and there from young talent. It's so much harder because we don't have systems in play. Yes, we have these clinics, we have paintball combine doing the best that they can to help people get better at the sport, to continue to grow the sport. And but then that's where it stops, right? I feel like the NXL as an organization could do a much better job in terms of helping create more talent, a bigger talent pool. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think as an organization, it is your job, to do those
Well, it
things. To do,
benefits you, right?
yeah,
If you have like players that are continuously striving to be pro and you have a healthy pool of talent for the pro teams to be able to pull up from, more people are going to be playing your league. It's good for your bottom line. What I will say, I gotta give lots of love to BKI because yeah, it's still in its early stages. The combine has been around for quite some time, and the formal big national combines have probably been 6 years, I want to say. So all relatively new, and we're trying to make it better each year.
yeah.
But dude, I gotta say, man, like that is because you're right. There's actually a ton of talent across the country. There's a
There
lot of
is.
talent, but some
There's
of
a
these
lot,
players just never get recognized,
right?
you know? And through BKI, honestly, a lot of them have started to get recognized. Christian Martinez got a chance. Austin Beatty got a chance. Trent Nita, he's only 18 years old. He plays on the Hurricanes, one of their brightest spots. Players have definitely used BKI to get recognized. In my opinion, it's not that we need a whole nother system. We need to continue to build on this. And I know Anthony does a good job of working with the NXL. And you're
Yeah.
right, Justin. Maybe there could be something cool that like at events there's some sort of showcasing thing
Yes.
at lunchtime,
Yeah.
where like uh you come and either do a drills challenge or an exhibition kind of game, and maybe you can't just allow anyone to sign up. You just simply don't have the time. But maybe they come through the BKI system and they're like the top ranked players can have access to the 1 hour slot at lunchtime at the NXL event to showcase their skills in front of all the pro coaches.
Yeah.
Something of that nature to kind of expand on it. Yeah, I mean, I would be great, right?
I think you said it absolutely right. I think BKI is one of the best things, and Anthony is one of the best things that ever happened in paintball in terms of helping young players, young talent continue to grow and evolve and try to get them seen. They are the starting point. They really are the starting point. But there should be more in place. Yes, if that's the starting point, then
Totally.
then maybe it is something at lunchtime. Maybe it could be a raffle brought to you by BKI, if that's what it is. Whatever it is, it could be a raffle, and you can only be D2 and up to enter. And then they choose, let's say, I don't know, 50, 75 players, because you could probably do a drills challenge in an hour with that many people. You get a minute, whatever. Like you do 60 players and they get a minute, or whatever it is. You do 50 players because you have to allow for time to go a little bit longer. And they do a raffle between D2 and up. So that gives incentives for the D4 guys, the D3 teams, because they can't even enroll into this thing until they hit a D2 team, right? So they want to move up, right? A lot of these people, they don't even want to go to D2 or D1 because the systems, the way it is in place, is if they go and play a tournament there, they can't go back. They're stuck. Like a lot of like for instance, a lot of players that come and play pro and they get a hash it's a black bar like on their APPA or whatever it is, whatever they have now. I don't know what it is now. They can't go back and play D3 or D2 anymore because they get that. So like that kid gets picked up, he gets put on the roster, he plays a couple of points when, the team is up 6-5-0 or whatever, and like, oh yeah, go out there and we'll get you some experience. They can't go back and play with their friends or their D3 in D3 anymore or D2 because they have a black hash on their APPA now. Like there needs to be a better system.
Yeah, Nick Laval has a great idea around that. He's been advocating for lately, and I hope it gets up to Tom Cole. I'm sure we'll talk to him about it. But being able to redshirt players, other sports do. Like you have a young kid, like we're gonna redshirt you, and there has to be a threshold, right? Like if you play more than 5 points in a tournament, then you can't. Then it's not a redshirt, whatever the number is, right?
Yeah, but I would say it needs to be more than that. But yes, I get
that's
your
fine.
point.
Yeah. Maybe it's 10 points. I think that's actually sufficient. I think if you're playing more than 10 points in an event, you're kind of you're a player on the team.
Yeah.
Maybe you also pair it with like if you only come up for one event, whatever it is, some sort of structure so that one, teams are incentivized to bring someone up to train them and get them prepared, and two, it's not so daunting and doesn't totally hose these players. If it doesn't work out and they have to go back and play D3, It's a really good idea. I would like to see it push forward.
But it seems like this, like just to go back, like the players union protects those players. Like there's no one protecting those players. It's literally the NXL going, yeah, you played one pro event. You only played 2 points, but hey, you're shit out of luck. You can't play with your friends anymore. Like that team didn't want you anymore. They didn't think that you were up to snuff. Well, sorry, better luck. And like now that dude probably quit paintball now because one, he can't go and play with his friends. He can't play with his friends because he went to go play pro because he wanted to do what he loved. He got a chance. It didn't work out for him. So now he's completely blown because of that. Like again, I could go on for hours about this. Yeah.
Just to play devil's advocate, because all the listeners can say, oh, well, technically, if you only play one event, they drop your highest event, and so it wouldn't count. But still, say you play 2 events. Like there does need to be an evolution.
There's too many times that it's happened. The reason why it's even being brought up, there's always people that are going to naysayers. They're like, oh, well, listen, and then they give some facts or whatever, and you're like, whatever, dude. But the reason why it's brought up is because this continues to happen, right? And people drop out of the sport because of it. They can't play anymore. So there's a lot of things that can be implemented to help grow and evolve and bring talent that's just not being implemented because there's no one to give them accountability. There's no one to say like, hey, we're not going to do this until this stuff starts happening. Like it's just not in place. It's literally a monarch, right? It's like, if you don't do if this is how it is and you'll love it, and if you don't love it, then well, sorry.
I really
And I'm
appreciate
not bad
Nick.
mouthing NXL at all. I'm
No, of
not. I think
course.
they do
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
job.
Yeah, and Nick, man, what a great guy he is. He comes on the show all the time, and you guys actually had the Over the Top podcast that you guys were running for a little bit. So you know Nick really well. He's just really thoughtful. He really cares about paintball,
He
and I
does.
think this is a great implementation that could possibly, come to light here, and give some players that are in the divisionals a chance to be redshirted and get their spins. And if they look good out there and they're able to carry their own, cool. If not, hey, you'll be able to maybe take a step back down, figure it out, come back
Right.
with the
And then
proper
come back.
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then be able to play some good ball. But yeah, Nick, we've had some good tinfoil hat talks with Nick, and just always had a lot of fun with that dude. He's crazy. We love him.
He loves the tinfoil talks. He loves them.
Dude,
He
we're right
loves
there
them.
with
We've
him.
got hats
We
ready
got the
for
hats
him.
ready.
Oh yeah, I can't. You guys
Yeah.
actually have hats.
We got
Oh
hats.
my
Oh
god.
yeah.
We've got the tinfoil hats ready. Tinfoil hat
Tinfoil
talk is
hat
big
talk,
here.
baby.
If
Oh
there's,
my God.
if you know any
Anything you
ETs that
got.
want to hop on the show, or
Anything you got.
we would love to chat with them.
If you know some of the Anunnaki, Tyler
yeah.
would love to talk with them.
The ancient Egyptians, we'll get them on the show.
I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a history channel. Just go
Yeah.
and watch that. They've gotten pretty crazy with like their
Dude,
theories
gotten
and
crazy.
conspiracies on History Channel. History used to be about history. Now it's all about conspiracies.
Hey man, dude,
I love it. You got to keep people interested.
Yeah, keep
Yeah.
them interested, man. The History Channel is off the charts. Have you seen some of those Ancient Alien episodes? They're off the
Dude,
charts.
it
dude.
is. It's some of it is so crazy. I can't even believe I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I really sitting here by myself alone watching this? Come on.
Shout out to my tinfoilers out there.
Shout
All right,
out.
back to paintball talk. I do want to know about your jersey number 9. Where did that come about? How did you choose that number for your jersey?
Yeah, I chose that for one reason and one reason only, and that's for my dad. It's more of like a legacy number. Like he had that number forever. When I was growing up, it was always like, you always have that shadow cast on you. Like for me, I had that shadow. It was like, oh, my dad, is he going to be good enough? There was always that pressure. There was always that shadow. So I came in with my own number because I did want to take his number, but it's like, how can I be my own person? How can I get everyone to start talking about me instead of saying, Rab's son? Because that's what it was forever when I was growing up. It was just Rab's son.
Do you think
it was never my name? It was never my name.
Yeah.
Rab's son.
Never my name. No one ever called me by my name. It was so heartbreaking. Like you would go there and like you would have I'd had such a good tournament. I would play so well. And it was always like, oh, Rab's son. Like in the announcers, like Maddie was like the worst of them. It was never me. It was always like, but I get it. Like that's how it is. Like when you have like a legacy, someone, when you're coming in with like that name, it's a legacy name. That's how it'll always be. Everybody who has like that, a legacy name, they have that shadow cast on them. They have to come into their own.
It's Justin. It's J-Rab. Let it be known,
Yeah.
Do you think that drove you too, kind of like,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was always, and I would tell him all the time at the house. It's like, I would tell him that I would be better than him or that I already was better than him and people just needed to see it. It was always that. And it was kind of like one of those things where you like put it in your mind and then, you convince yourself like that's what it is. And then it becomes reality.
Mm-hmm. Your dad is one of the greatest dudes of all time. Major shout out to Papa Rab, and everything that he did in the game, because he set the precedence for so many other players to come through.
Absolutely.
So I would like to shine that light on him and kind of talk about his story for listeners out there who don't know about.
Justin's like, this is my show. Stop! You're doing it again, Ty. You're doing
I'm okay. I'm absolutely okay with it. Now it used to bug me because it's like, oh, like, we're doing this again, But like now it's like you realize like you appreciate where you came from. Like
totally.
It's almost like the founding fathers of paintball who made it into what we know what it is, because we want to continue to carry that torch for the next people. right? And like it's up to us, right? Like they did what everything that they could. That there was no money involved. It was a hobby. Like yeah, it's a lifestyle for us, but
That's
it
right.
was a hobby for them. Like they didn't. There was no money. They didn't get paid like prizes. Like there was no money at all. Like this was for them to get away from their families for a weekend and shoot the shit with their best friends and go out there and shoot people with guns when they couldn't have in their normal day lives and pump up the adrenaline. Like it was a hobby to them, and for it to progress and evolve into a lifestyle for us is such a it's so amazing to see. So I would hope that when we're old and gray and when we're done with the sport that we love, that the next generation that comes in has it even better than us. It's almost like with your kids, right? You want them to have a better life than what you have. And it's the same with us, because paintball for us, and I will speak for you guys because I know it to be true, that paintball is our baby, right? This is what we love, and we've loved it for so long. It's the reason why we continue to get up and do what we do, because it is our baby, right? And we want our baby to grow up and be better than what we had, right? And so like the people growing up and coming past us, that we want them to have a better turn than what we had, right? And that's why we continue to do what we do. It's why we do podcasts. It's why we do clinics. It's why we're out there grinding and doing everything that we can to continue to grow to grow the sport and get it to where we believe it should be.
Yeah, and just keep growing with gratitude and keep having
Yeah,
fun with the game. And like we want this game to be worthy of the youngsters right now. Like these
absolutely.
youngsters, they're training hard. These
Yeah.
new cats that are coming through, the new paintball generation, they're working hard too. They're starting with social media and all of these different platforms to see the formula and see that, no matter what you choose to do, you got to dig deep and you got to
Hmm.
really do the work. I mean, really
Yeah.
do the work and
Yeah.
care about it and invest everything that you have. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to fall short. You got to really, be 100 million% invested in everything about the process. So it's cool that we're all able to give back and kind of nurture that process for the future. And we got to make sure we keep, doing right by the youngsters that are coming, that are going to be playing the game we love.
And that's advice for just life in general. Like whether
Hmm.
it's paintball or just anything, if you work hard in it, you'll see results and you'll be happy with the results that you have. Even if it's not to be the best player in the world or the best at whatever you're doing, as long as you work hard in anything that you do, you will have success and you will grow as a person. You will see that. A lot of people
Yeah.
these days is stuff they just don't want to work. Like a lot of people will DM me and it's like, "Oh, how much do you play?" And I and like they're like, "Oh, well, I only play this much." I'm like, "Well, how do you ever expect to be better than me or get past me if you play less than I do?" Right? Like people just don't understand like how that works. And it's a lot of young players that will ask those questions. It's like you have to be working 2 times harder than me, 2 times harder than me, double than what I'm working to try to catch me. You have to catch me first, right? And if you're not working at least double or triple, how can you expect to catch the greats? You just will always be a step behind if you're doing less or even with us. You need to be
Yeah.
working that double. You need to be working that triple, quadruple your workload, no matter what in paintball or no matter what it is, if you want to surpass everybody else. It's
Yeah.
just that's
And
just life advice.
there's a lot of opportunities for, whether you're consuming paintball or shooting a paintball. You don't always have to be shooting a paintball. There's so many different things that you could be
Yeah,
doing. I mean, a multitude of things that you could be doing. Reading about it, reading about things that could inspire you in different ways to be better at paintball.
yeah,
Reading, whatever you can, consuming information, watching video, podcasts, asking good questions, and then yeah, of course, playing the game. That's a great way to get at it. You have to play paintball as well. But
yeah,
there's also, going to the gym. There's so many things that you can do to heighten yourself. So when you show up on that field, that the best product is there. So
yeah.
just you can't make excuses to yourself or shortcut yourself. You got to just dive in and give it everything you got. And then like you said, the good stuff starts to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
man.
also to couple that, I got to know the significance of the color purple. The purple color. You rock purple. Tell the people
So
why.
so again, this literally comes off of like, being in my dad's shadow, and not knowing your place, not finding your place. When I was growing up, I literally did everything that I could just to be different, right? I just wanted to be different. I didn't want to be, Rab's son. I wanted to be my own person, right? And especially in paintball, but just like in life in general, like I wanted to be different. I strove to be different. I worked hard to be different than everybody else. I didn't want to just be your typical, your average, whatever that may look like to you, right? Your average. I wanted to be different than everybody else, and no one at the time was rocking purple. At the time, actually, it was a little taboo. It was considered, I mean, we don't really say this much anymore, but it was considered gay, right? I literally was flamed and made fun of because I rocked the color purple. It was unheard of at the time. No one was rocking that
And
color because it
how
was
silly over a
considered
color
gay.
to,
What?
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
how silly over a color to have that kind
It's
of
so
response.
silly, but that was just the time, right? That was just what it looked like is in that time, in that day and age, right? And because I was
Well,
what, 13, 14, 15.
you've turned it into a movement. The
I I,
purple movement is
I
booming. There's
know.
a whole
Purple people eater.
thread. There's a whole thread on like socials for like media of people who want to buy all the purple merch, and they have,
Yeah, yeah.
it's gone crazy.
It's a pretty. Honestly, it's pretty awesome to see, like, to have that trend go from that, because even when I was rocking it, it took a while. Like years, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years before it finally even caught on. I was still the only one doing it. Like I said, it was super taboo over a color. Like imagine like saying that to like someone younger, like now they'd be like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Crazy.
But like
Yeah.
at
crazy.
the time, like it was like it
Yeah.
wasn't taboo. That's just the way like life was. But now now it's, you're like, really, like. But it's really cool to see like something that you loved for so long, just like be favorited by so many people now. Like that's what they rock. Like they love that color
Yeah.
so much, and it's cool to just be a
I
part
mean,
of
that had to have
that
just,
movement.
yeah, that's you, dude.
I'd like to
That's
take some
yeah,
credit for that. I would like to take some
that's
credit for
you.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%,
for
bro.
sure.
100%.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fedorov
Dude.
did the whole pink thing. Like he did the
Yeah.
pink
Right.
thing for
Right.
forever, and like that was his thing. Purple was my thing, and then it like those all the gay colors and the taboo colors kind of like started taking off, and like people really started loving like the bright stuff. Once that started to come into the fold, that's when like colors like that just took off, and people loved it. Like they just wanted to be bright and colorful and be the one to stand out on the field. Everyone wanted to stand out because their favorite player was standing out on the field. Like you see him on the webcast and you're like, well, there he is. You'd spot him instantly because that's what it was. Like
It's
you
really
knew the
smart,
colors.
actually. Very
Yeah.
smart. You need to, this is actually good advice for anybody out there who's trying to brand themselves. You need to do something that helps you pop as a
Yeah.
player, whether it's wearing one shoe that's one color, the other shoe that's a different color, or like a crazy thing that you wear. I don't know, it's just something, anything,
It
or,
seems silly. It seems silly. Like people listening to it, it seems silly. I guarantee you that works. Tyler's speaking
yeah,
facts here. It
brand.
absolutely works. Like building your own brand and standing out from everybody else on the field. Like when you make anything happen, people notice because they
100%.
remember. They remember
A
you.
bleached hair, dude. There's only one reason I bleached the top.
Yeah, and you look, you're the only one doing it. You're bringing the '90s back. You're in sync. I thought you were gonna join a boy band.
I was
But
ready
like,
for it, dude.
but that's like it's things like that. I mean, you don't need to stand out anymore. I don't need to stand out anymore. Tyler doesn't need to stand out anymore because people know who we are. Like they go to either our colors, the name on the back, the number, like whatever that may be. Like we're instantly spotted, right? But for someone else coming up, like if you truly want a spot in the pro level, do
Thomas Taylor was a great
anything.
example of it.
Hundred
Yeah.
With the
percent,
mohawk,
100%, and people loved
always
it. They ate it
loved
up.
it.
They
Yeah.
Ate
loved
it
it
up. He was a superstar.
because it's different. People
Yeah.
love to see different, but no one wants to do different because it goes against the mold. Yeah, people get made fun of even still for like breaking the mold and being different. Like people continue to get made fun of, and so people are afraid. They're afraid to branch out and be themselves. Like, but don't, especially in paintball. Like, if you can stand out, I might even bring up the 2 different shoes. I like that.
Yeah.
The 2 different colored shoes. That's a great idea. Like having one color, like a brown and or a gold and a black, like for our impact colors now. Like that would be so awesome.
You need a purple shoe. You need one purple shoe.
Not many people make purple cleats. You think that they would? It's so hard to find purple cleats. It's really hard.
Wear?
Dude, the PTG Nation's crazy. We'll have custom painted purple cleats for you at every
100%,
event. Without a doubt.
100%.
Somebody tell them to help me out. I will wear them. If you get them for me, I will wear them. It is so hard to find purple cleats. It's almost impossible. Like, well, in terms of like the ones that I like, because I'm not a soccer cleat guy, so like it's hard to find ones that like I like baseball and football cleats. Baseball, there's no purple cleats for baseball and football.
Yeah. What position? What position football? There should be some Vikings fucking cleats.
Yeah, dude, I've been everywhere.
Yeah,
there might be like some custom ones, like you can do like the custom ID from Nike, but I have to. I'm so meticulous with my cleats. Like I have to be able to like put them on before I order them.
For sure.
Wear them. Run around. I'm in the store. I'm in the store, snap shooting, doing everything. I need to be able to. They need to be comfortable for me before I buy them.
100%. 100%. Yeah, cleats are crucial, man. Like if I don't feel good in my cleats, it messes everything up. They can't.
It's a worse day. It's a worse day.
Yeah. 100%. Cleats are crucial. I do like soccer cleats, though. I like the flexibility of them, the mobility.
I have to have the front toe. I have to have the front toe spike. I gotta have the front toe spike. And the soccer just doesn't have it.
I get it. Yep.
The running back
cleats.
Running back too.
Used to rock the track cleats a lot.
And the cams, you'd always be rocking those cams out there.
Yeah, we had some of the cams going too. Yeah. So, dude, Justin, man, let's dive into a little bit of the history. Speaking of history, let's talk about like how you got into the game. I mean, you've been in it long as you've been alive, pretty much.
Yeah. So I almost forget how I got into it. It's been so long.
Yeah, like what was your first encounter with paintball?
My first encounter was actually at a birthday. I've been around paintball my whole life. It wasn't even my birthday. Like I said, I didn't like paintball when I was growing up at all, even though I was around it. And I was always at the field. I never played. I was always so scared of it. How
old were you?
I want to say my first encounter was like I was 11. I want to say I was 11, but then I didn't play again for like 2 years because it scared me so much. And I don't remember like exact like dates and times. I remember that I played the birthday party. I hated it. I cried. I got shot. I cried. And then I didn't play for a while. It wasn't until I kind of like started to, mature a little bit and like I wasn't so scared of getting hit that I started to finally to play again. But I hated it growing up. I hated it.
That was not too long before, because I don't know if you remember we went to the same middle school. I think we've talked about this. Which is insanely funny that we had a mutual.
What? Yeah. We went to the same middle school.
So the funniest thing though, we didn't know each other. Marshall Middle School. Marshall Middle School. That's it. In San Diego. I had a friend, Andres Torres, that was Justin's like best friend. So it was a mutual friend of ours. And I remember like I was the paintball kid at school. Justin wasn't the paintball kid at school, at least in my mind. I
was the skateboarding kid.
Okay. But Andres was like, dude, what do you mean? Like you are close with Dye, you go and play with the Iron Man at like practices and stuff. Justin, my friend Justin Rabackoff, he does all that. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. He definitely doesn't. I think Justin kind of said the same thing. Like, I don't know who Marcelo is. Like both the other person's lying about it. Because we didn't know each other. We didn't know of each other or anything.
And we both did the same. We both did the same thing too. Like we would go to the same fields. It was weird.
It is really crazy
how we didn't know each other.
Yeah, it is insane that we didn't know each other when we were that age. That we weren't playing together, which is so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you remember the talent show? I did a talent show, an Eminem talent show of the Real Slim Shady. Do you remember that?
I was at all of them, so holy shit, dude! If I didn't realize it was you, if it was
This
you,
is the real
Yeah,
Slim Shady.
I had my hair bleached too, like the tips. I had my tips
Okay.
frost. I had my
Oh
tips
my God.
frosted. The
Yeah.
whole '90s
Yeah.
look. I had the whole thing. And we did the talent show. There was like, I think there was like 4 or 5 of us up there, and
Yeah.
we did the real Slim Shady for the talent show.
Who
That's
was your circle of
crazy.
friends there?
What?
Were you friends with like Dominic Romano and them? Do you remember them by chance? They were a grade older than you because you were 1 grade above me, I think. You were in Andres' grade, right?
Yeah, me. The only person that I really remember from that time was just me and Andres.
Andres? Okay.
That's it. That
Yeah.
like we were inseparable, really. Like we skated all the time. Like I think we even went and played paintball a couple of times. I was at his house all the time. He would
Yeah.
come to mine. We didn't really have like a third person that was like tight knit with us. We had
Okay.
like people that
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
around and would
Yeah.
skate with us, who did more
Yeah.
skateboarding than anything.
Gotcha.
Um,
What a
but
small
he was
world.
like, yeah, he was really the only one.
It's an insanely small world. I mean, like looking at it now, where we're at in the sport now. I mean, it's fucking funny. That's
Yeah,
like such a
it's
funny.
super. It's super funny. For
Yeah.
how we went to it just doesn't make any sense how we didn't know each other. It just
Totally.
doesn't make any
Totally. We've
sense.
been best friends, dude. Everyone else is
I
making fun of me for playing paintball.
Yeah, I know. They had no idea we were living right
Yeah.
next door to each other.
That's hilarious. It was in San Diego near the dye factory. I think your dad worked at dye at that
Yeah,
time
he
or
worked
something,
there.
right?
Yeah, he
So
worked there.
so in a roundabout way, it kind of makes sense. But what a small world. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
anytime, like if you ever get brought up in conversations, I that story comes up because it just has
Yeah.
to. I'm like, it's like unbelievable that we're in the same middle school. That's
That
so
is
funny.
wild. So,
It's surreal.
what was the name of your first rookie team? Like the first team you started playing tournaments with, and when you started to kind of get serious about paintball?
It was not anything crazy. The first rookie team, because I played at a field called Pevs when I really got into paintball. Because like me and Marcel, we would play like here and there. Like I said, I didn't really like paintball that much. It wasn't until I moved to Virginia that I
Mhm.
really got into paintball, and when I started playing like all the time, like pretty much like every weekend, and even going after schools, setting up the field and playing.
How
It
old were
wasn't
you then
until
when this started?
I was 13 when it started, and I was 14 when I started playing like competitively, like in like 3-man tournaments and everything. So I was
Yeah.
about 14.
Yep.
Um,
That's how I started
and the
too. 3-man,
yeah,
Twisted
yeah,
Kids,
yeah.
Yep.
Mine was it was just so basic. It was just Pev's factory team.
There we
We
go.
were a 3-man Pev's factory team, and like the
Perfect.
field that we played at, like we were their young guns, their hot shot young guns who would beat up on all the older dudes all the time. And then, like that was my first 3-man team. But then it
That's
turned
rad.
into like quickly it turned into like DC Devastation. And then we're like, well, if we always thought like we were gonna go pro, like no matter what from the beginning, since 3-man, we were like, well, we need to have a team name that can be a pro team name. So we were DC Devastation. That was our team name for 3-mans, for X Ball, for everything that we played. Like that was our team name. So that like that holds like a lot of value for me.
Yeah.
And I was even wearing like a lot of like even stuff like recently.
No way.
Until my stuff got stolen. Yeah.
Oh, dude,
All
that's
my
right.
Devastation stuff got stolen at the event. I was laying it
Oh,
out before a match. It was wet. And I wanted to dry it, and it got ganked
dang.
right then. This was
Oh,
before they were super like before they had like people watching the pits and stuff. So like anyone
yeah.
could just like walk through.
That's a bummer.
Like
Man.
old airport security.
Yeah. Who were like your
Yeah, those days are
idols?
longer.
Like
Uh,
during this time when you were watching paintball, I was on the West Coast and I had my idols. Who were your idols that were out there or in general that you liked watching?
Yeah, so I had 3. Obviously Oliver. I think all of us coming up, Oliver was a big name in the sport. We all either wanted to be him or be better than him, right? And so it was him, Rusty Glaze, and John Richardson. Rusty and John were a huge deal for me because they actually worked at Pevs at the time in Virginia. So I was able to train with them. They would just beat the shit out of me constantly, and that's how I learned. But I had, and I've only told this story a few times. I actually had Oliver's Dynasty jersey taped to my ceiling. So whenever I went to bed, I would see his jersey, and I would always like tell myself before I went to bed that I would be better than him. Every night I would go to bed. Like when I say that I lived paintball, I literally like the saying like live, eat, sleep, like something or anything like or paintball. I actually did that. I went to sleep thinking about paintball. I woke up thinking about paintball. No matter what time of day, like paintball was my everything. Like I literally blood, sweat, and tears, like growing up was for paintball.
That's
It
why
kept me
you're
out of trouble,
so
and it kept me out of trouble too, right? I was a
ab-
bad kid
yeah.
100%,
growing
dude.
up. It kept
Yeah.
me out of trouble.
That's why you're
I
so
was
damn
always
great
getting
at the
into
game,
trouble.
is because you're invested in it. And thankfully we had paintball. Yes, because
Yeah.
it is definitely a lifesaver on so many levels, man. It keeps you, it keeps you focused and achieving a goal and
Yeah.
striving for something.
And you got it. You like as a kid, like not. I there's probably not many people listening that have their favorite player or their someone that they strive to be better than or an idol on their ceiling. Yeah, maybe they have posters or maybe they just have a screensaver on their computer, but there's probably not many people that are look at it, every night and have it posted on their ceiling. Like I will be better than you, and make that a reality. Like there's things like if you're not like, and I said this like just a little bit ago, if you're not doing more than us, you can't be better.
Wow.
How can you ever pass us if you're not doing more? Right. And like that was one of those things, like was he was everything paintball. Like whenever anyone talked about paintball, like even like in my high school, it's like you would tell someone like, oh yeah, I play paintball, and like, oh, do you know Dynasty? Like Dynasty was like the best thing. If you knew anything about competitive paintball, you only knew about Dynasty and you knew about Oliver, right? Because he had a big contract, and then Dynasty was like the best team ever, right? Um, so like those were the two things, and so when people would say that, it's like I want them to say that about me. Like how do I make it so like when people come up to me and like they know who I am. Like I don't
Mhm.
want to hear someone else's name, right? I don't want to hear Rab's son. I don't want to hear, oh, do you know Oliver? Do you hear Dynasty? I want them to know my team. I want them to know my name, right? I want someone to have my jersey on their ceiling saying before they go to bed, I will be better than you. Like that was like what I dreamt about when I was growing up. Like that was my fuel, that was my fire. And it's like, how do I? And then that obviously breeds a lot of like arrogance, and that's why I was like such a shithead growing up, like bonus ball everyone and like thinking that I'm better than you, because in my mind I had to convince myself that I was better than everyone else to push myself to that level, right? I had to train harder. I had to make it I had to lie to myself in my head to make that a reality. And and then when you look back at it and you're like, I can't believe I did some of those things that I did, right? And but it's a very humbling experience, like as you grow up, because like those things you have to say you're the best, right? Even Mouse still does it, right? He's an old we're getting older. He'll just call me just to say, hey, I'm better than you, right? And then the conversation will be over and we'll hang up and then we'll talk again the next day. He still does it because he's still in his mind, like saying like that's for him, that's his process, right? Everybody has their own process, and growing up, like that was my process. I had to tell myself, I had to convince myself, and I made that a reality because I took all of those steps, right? And it might be silly, it might, putting someone's jersey on your ceiling might sound silly, it might seem silly, but when you go to bed and you say I will be better than you, that's a powerful thing. The mind is a very powerful thing. And if you can convince the mind of something, your mind will achieve that. It literally goes from mind to body, and you will work to achieve that goal. Whether you set short-term goals to achieve that or long-term goals, no matter what that may be or what that may look like to you, if you do
Hmm.
those things, you will find those successes. You will see those successes. I mean, we are all living proof of that. of hard work and doing, like, we didn't all do the same things. We had different processes. We have different structures. You may not have had a jersey on the ceiling, but what worked for me isn't going to work for you, right? As a person, you need to figure out what that motivation is. What makes you tick, right? What makes you tick? What makes you need to be the best player or the best person that you can be? Because everyone should strive to be the best person that they can be, better for themselves, better for the people that are around them, for their family, whoever that may be. What does that look like for you, right? We all
Yeah.
have our own processes.
Yeah. And it's
100%, dude. And you're right. It all starts with the spoken word or the internalization of your thoughts and your words, because you can't just think about something and envision it and it's going to happen. I don't believe in that. But
No,
if you think about it and believe in it enough, you will take the appropriate action to get to what you want to
exactly.
do. If it
Yeah.
is always on your mind and you are just obsessing over it night and day, I mean, I didn't have a jersey on my wall, but maybe there was a certain trophy that I had on my wall that I looked at every single day. There, I guarantee you, Tyler has similar stories. Like, to
Yeah.
reach the height in anything, you have got to obsess over it in a way that is almost unhealthy. But that's how you
yeah.
get the utmost greatness in that field, you know? And
Yeah.
it's the only way. You're not going to ever get to the height of anything by half-assing it and by not being 100% committed. You might become pro.
I will agree with you, and that it's not a lifestyle for everybody, because what you said rings completely true. When you obsess over something, you have to do it almost in an unhealthy way. As growing up, like, paintball was my entire life. I missed beach weeks. I missed school dances. I missed parties. I missed everything that growing up, that, like, normal kids that would like to do, that want to do, that are excited about. I skipped all of those for simple practices, just to go to practices. I didn't, or tournaments or whatever it is, not even national ones. I was missing school dances
Oh yeah.
and beach weeks and all the things that all my friends were doing. But I got to do tenfold of that, traveling around the world after working hard and
Yes.
doing everything that I promised myself, because you make that internal promise, right? I'm still making internal promises to myself, like, hey, these are my goals for this year. Like, this is what I promised to myself to be able to achieve, right? And as a kid, like, those were the promises I made to myself, and then I got to reap those benefits. I've been on every continent except Antarctica, six of seven continents, and I plan to actually go to Antarctica soon. I'm planning that trip as we speak. So, like, I like, not many people can say they've gone to every single continent on this planet. Like, to me, I've done all of those things that I missed tenfold, and it's just it to me, all that hard work paid off, and, like, I was able to do, like, and see everything that I only dreamed about, and, like, looking at that jersey, like, all the things that I wanted, I got, because I was able to bring that to fruition and
Yeah.
bring that into a reality.
It's like a trigger, you got
Yeah,
these triggers all around that you can look at, and they get your mind just fired up in a certain way to where you
absolutely. Yeah,
immediately are taking action. And that's where it happens. The thought is one thing, but taking action and like, write it down, look at stuff, like, really care. If and the universe knows when you really actually care about something. You can't lie to the fabric of space and time. It's going to provide
yeah.
exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're projecting. And then you're going to start to see those kind of things fall in line for yourself. And doors are going to open up if you put yourself in those positions for opportunity.
And you're just going to be happy. You're going to be happy because, like, all of these things that you're accomplishing, they're dopamine hits. They're dopamine rushes. Like, when you hit these short-term goals, each and every day, like, literally, like, waking up and making your bed is a dopamine rush. Like, it's one of the things, like, like, these billionaires and
Correct.
a lot of these people, like, these really successful people, like, really preach, like, I don't believe in taking cold showers, but I do believe in waking up and making your bed as small
Cold
goals,
showers
small.
are great. I can
I know
attest to
they
them, my
are
brother.
great, but I hate them. I hate them. When I shower, I need a hot, scalding shower. I need to be in the fiery depths of hell,
There's
literally
also
cleansing my body of all of
there's
what
also
I did that day.
Yeah. That does the same thing too, though. Heat shock proteins,
Yeah.
piping hot showers are legit. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, those small accomplishments, those like
Yeah.
those goals, like a lot of
Right.
people, like the reason they have these failures, because I can speak from this from personal experience, is you set these long term goals that sure they may be achievable, but you're not taking any steps or the necessary steps in between that time to create that success, that long term success. So people
Mm-hmm.
create these like these goals that they have from themselves, like 5 years that you would achieve in 5 years, and they try to achieve it in 6 months, and then they're like, what, I'm not getting anything done. And then you feel that failure, that you feel that pressure of like you put on yourself, and then you stop creating these goals. But when you create these goals for yourself, these long-term goals, you need to have these short-term goals that you have either on a daily, on a weekly. Here's what I'm going to do to create that success, because you'll continue to get that dopamine hits. You'll be able to get those rushes, and you'll feel, those goals come to fruition, and then slowly over time, you'll start to build towards that long-term goal, and you'll just be happy in general. Because when you're achieving all of these goals one at a time that you create for yourself, when you finally hit that goal that you've set for yourself, that happiness and that rush that you've created, and that hard work, when it finally pays off and you get that feeling, we've all had that feeling, and it's probably the most amazing feeling besides, like, having kids, right, and seeing your kid for the first time. It's probably one of the most amazing experiences that you can have, when you finally, after all that hard work, winning a tournament, winning World Cup, all of your hard work pays off. Everything that you've done, not seeing your kids, missing, birthdays, whatever it may be, all of that comes into play, and then you feel so amazing, and all of it that comes together, and all that hard work, when that finally comes together, like, God damn it, you can't ever recreate that feeling. You can't even really explain it to somebody without having them go through it individually.
Yeah.
Like, that feeling is so hard to explain, because it hits everybody so differently, right? Because my hard work and my process looks way different than Marcelo's, and looks way different than Tyler's. No, not one of us have the same process. I can guarantee that. None of us
100%.
have the
Yeah.
same process. So what that looks like to you cannot be explained to another. It just can't be done. So when
Yeah.
you finally hit that and you feel that, God, it's
It's
amazing. It's amazing feeling.
it's timeless. It's
It
like
really is.
time stands still, and
Oh yeah.
everything just, like, I don't know. It's indescribable. It truly is.
It is. It's so
Yeah.
you cannot describe it, because again, your feelings, your process, everything that you did to get to that point, you can't explain that to somebody else,
Yeah.
right? You can't. Like, even though
Yeah.
we understand it, I would still can't understand the way your process and the way you would feel in that moment, because it's going to be different than mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The sacrifices along the way are always different, for sure.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
I think that ends up being the biggest one. Like, maybe some of the work in itself is similar,
Mhm.
similar set of drills, similar things that you work on, similar film study, that kind of stuff. But
Right.
the individual sacrifices to get that stuff done is
Yeah.
always different,
And that mental
and that,
process. It's that mental
yeah,
process.
totally.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Man, let's dive in a little bit, because speaking of, like, obviously your process and everything that has led to get you to where you are now, let's dive in a little bit to your first pro team. I think, was it Infamous? Was Infamous your first pro team?
No, technically, Excessive was.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's right.
Yeah, Excessive was my first pro team.
Okay.
Damn.
All right.
What was
So
that
yeah,
like?
let's talk about, when you first got into the league and how things
Yeah, so
transpired.
my
Want to talk a
first
little bit?
yeah, my first event that I played with Excessive was actually um it was World Cup, and we took second. In my first pro tournament, we took second. I think we actually lost to Dynasty. Uh yeah, I'm pretty sure we lost to Dynasty. But
No, Dynasty did not win a World Cup back then.
you sure? When
Might have
okay,
been.
remember when the NXL was a thing, and then they had like the D1, but the D1 was like almost better than the NXL. Do you remember that?
Okay.
That's when
Yes.
that's when that was.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So,
Yeah. So
and I'm almost positive it was a World Cup. Maybe it
yeah,
wasn't
it may have been then. If it was
the
D1, then
NXL, because
yeah.
it was different. It
Yeah.
was because remember
Gotcha.
how they
Oh,
had that
05?
separate. Yeah,
I
it
do
was
for sure.
05. It was
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
separate, and those two teams
Yep.
weren't in the
Yep.
franchise. They
100%.
weren't franchised.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but honestly, the whole pro experience for me was so shitty. It was so shitty. Because like you are everything has changed so much. Like you have your rookies, but like there's no hazing. There's no like I had to do I was a kid and I was the rookie on the team. I had to do everything. Like from something as small as hey, get up out of bed even though you're already in bed and go and turn the lights off for me because even though I just sat down, I'm not even under the covers yet. You get up and you go do it because that's your job. Right? Like just small things like that like it as a kid, it's a miserable experience. Nowadays, everyone's got it so good that you know that you like these
Everyone
kids.
has it good now.
They come to Impact and they're treated like royalty, pretty much. Like they get everything that they wanted. But back then, like you got hazed, you got made fun of, like you had to do everything, like you were the bitch, like you of the team, like that was your title, that was your job. You didn't even have a name, right? You were just the rookie. And so for me, like my experience wasn't that great. I actually, when I first went and played pro, I took a step back after and I went and played D2. Like I left pro because I was like, I can't take it anymore. I can't do this. I got to go play with my friends. I got to have some fun because you work so hard and you put, and I think I put too much in my head of like what I thought that it would look like when I got there, that when it wasn't that, it was a real letdown for me, right? Because in my head I made it seem like I was God's gift. I'm the best at ever. Like obviously that wasn't a healthy way to look at it, right? But when you put that in your head and you grind that into your head, when you get there, you have this idea of what it'll look like when you do get there, right? And then when it's not that, you just kind of get let down. My expectations were way different than what the reality was of playing pro paintball at that time. And so it was a difficult transition for me because mentally I was just like, this isn't what I imagined. This isn't what I wanted. Why is it like this? I can't handle it. Right. And I couldn't. I was just a kid, right? So I couldn't handle it and I had to go back. Yeah, I went to Infamous after and even then I was like, even thought about quitting. I just thought about quitting paintball in general and I was like, no, maybe my dad was like, no, maybe you should go back and play with your friends. And then after that, maybe you'll find that it'll be better for you in the long run. So yeah, I went in, took a second at my first pro event. And when I go back and I actually look at that, God, I played so scared. There's time, you look back at an event because everybody in retrospect, when you lose, you're like, what if I would have done this differently? What if I would have done this here? And that's how we grow. That's how we grow as players. Like all of us do that. Even when we win, you still go back. Like the best players will go back and you're like, man, I could have done so much better. I could have done so much better, and I could have done this here, here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And the list goes on, right? You break down every scenario, you break down every single game. But when you lose, everything really comes to the surface. Every little thing, you break down everything. And again, like Marcelo said, in almost an unhealthy manner because you obsess over it. Like, what if I would have done this differently? This would have played out like blah, blah, blah. Like you have to, like, that's what the best players do. But the reality in my expectations of playing pro at the time just didn't commingle, and I had to take a step. I had to take a step back. Like I didn't like to be bossed around.
Yeah.
Like I was a rebel kid. That went against authorities. Like I would always be in detention because I didn't like authority telling me what to do. So when you go to a pro team, that's exactly what that is, right? It's a totalitarian environment telling you like, hey, if you don't do this, you're out of here, right? Like if you don't produce, then you're out of here. Like that pressure, like to me, like I couldn't surmount to the pressure, and like I crumbled under it.
And then you went to Infamous was your next pro team. What was it like playing for that organization and being a part of Infamous?
So, well, I think even in between that, I played with Image for 7-man because I didn't play. I didn't play in the XL. I think I only played 7-man for a little stint of that, and then I went to Infamous and played both with them.
Yeah.
Infamous was much better. Was much better. They were more laid back. Like Excessive at the time was super professional. They had a very like everything was down to business where like lawyers were coming in. This is when like they had a lot of money coming in, and then they got greedy and it crumbled. But when I sat down and signed my contract, there was lawyers there, the owners were there, like the whole like it was insane to me. Obviously, it was everything that I dreamed of, like everything that you
Yeah.
mock up in your head. Like that's what paintball looked like to me. But obviously, things aren't done like that anymore. But that's what paintball looked like to me. So like my expectation when I was going in, like that's what it looked like. But then when I got on the field, when I got to the hotels and I got to the practices, it was quite the opposite of what it was. And when I went to Infamous, it was a much more laid back. You know, they did a lot of drinking and they had a lot of fun. They had like to go parties, and obviously I couldn't go to the bars and whatever, but like, you know, they'd bring back girls and I got to be a part of all of that. Like, so like to me, it was more of like a laid back. It was such a fun setting. And like, so I was having fun again. And like, that's what I wanted. I didn't need to have like, and be drunk and like, and go out and hook up with girls all the time to have fun. But it was more of like, I was one of them. Right. Whereas like on Excessive, I was just a peon, right? I was a nobody. I was and you know, sometimes that's how it is. Like that's in a professional environment, that's how it is. If I were to enter that system now, I would absolutely flourish in that system. But as a kid, I just couldn't handle that type of that pressure. I just wasn't accustomed to it. I didn't know like in any other sport, they have people that train you, you know, for these sort of things, whether it's media,
Totally,
how to deal with
absolutely.
media.
Yeah.
You are trained to go into these environments to understand the expectation. So you don't put it in your head like, hey, this is what it's going to look like. I didn't have any of that. So when I first hit it, that expectation just, I crumbled under that pressure. I just couldn't handle it. So Infamous was a great thing for me because I was able to just have fun and be one of the guys. Like I was treated as an equal there. And like, to me, that's all I really wanted, right? Like that's all everyone wants, to just be treated fairly and be treated equally.
Yeah.
Um,
The
so
Infamous family is legendary from
it
top to bottom,
is.
from the beginning of the lineage all the way to today. It's always
Yeah.
been just a really fun team and great group of people, you know, that love paintball. And
You played
also,
for Infamous, didn't you? Yeah. So you
um,
know,
I did. I
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Travis. You know, he's
yeah.
been a huge part of that team for a long time. But yeah, the Infamous lifestyle was different. When I went to the team, it was kind of similar to you, Justin. I was so used to like structure, and every team that I had been on up to that point was very, very structured and very
Yeah.
I don't want to say they're not, you know, Infamous isn't professional, but the other teams were more professional. And then Infamous, it was like, okay, we could have fun and win. You know, we
Yeah.
could
You
like
can do both. You're
we could
like,
do
what?
both.
This is
Yeah,
possible?
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
rad.
Yeah, Infamous, great team. It was a lot of fun to play with him back in the day. So
Yeah,
let's see.
absolutely.
That was like 2008, 2009, something like that.
No, and when I played
No,
with Infamous, that would have been
earlier.
2006, wasn't it? Because I in '07 is when I went and played back
Russians.
and played D2.
Okay, it was 72. And then did you go to the Russians in 08 or 09?
Yes, that's how I know, because I know I went to the Russians '08, and the
Okay.
year before that I played D2, and so that
Gotcha.
would have been '07.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I want to talk about the Russian Legion stint you had, because that was
Yeah.
at like, you know, the height of the Russian Legion. You guys went on a damn run. I
Yeah.
think that is where your game really elevated and took off
Mhm.
as well. So can we talk a little bit about that? Just
Yeah.
what that whole experience was like, how you even got the tryout or the call to come play for them, the whole deal.
So, okay, so My dad actually found out, and this is where, it's great to know people, right? Your dad's the sport. My dad found out that the Russians were having a closed tryout, and asked for if I could come. I paid for everything to go there, right? I had to work off from my dad, like, hey, I'll pay for you to go, but you got to do all of this and you got to pay me back, right? So he paid for me to go and do the tryout at this closed tryout in Florida, and there was like, I think 12 or 15 Americans that were there, and they made us run through a series of drills, situations. We played 5-on-5s and we did everything, and then each day, like, people got cut and were sent home. um to me, that was the first experience of like a true tryout, right? Because all the other teams I never really tried out for, like, it was,
Yeah.
I went to that team, and because of, whatever, like, when I went to Excessive, it was mainly because of John and Rusty. They were on the team, and I played with them constantly, and they were like, "Hey, the young talent, we're going to bring him on the team." So I was able to get on the team because of that, because I just lived in the area, I trained with them, and that's what it was. But this was the first time I went and actually tried out for a team, and it was a pretty amazing, for because they had cuts each day. They had cuts, like, from Friday to Saturday to Sunday. They had cuts where they would let go like 2 or 3 people each day, and they're like, "Okay, you're definitely not going to make it. Don't even show up tomorrow." Um, and then those cuts got all the way cut down to, hey, we want you. We were all taken into a room and said, hey, we want you guys to come to Russia to continue to try out. So you're not on the team. We want you to continue to try out with our guys back in Russia. And after that, I was like, absolutely, like, count me in. Like, it was really cool to go to that tryout and beat up on everybody that was trying out, like, in the one-on-ones and the scenarios, and just play so well. It was like really awesome to, like, to just go in and, like, after all that, like, again, like, after that whole all that hard work, like, going into that and being like, okay, man, I am ready to be here, right? I am ready to be here, and, like, this is what I want to do. Um, and then when they sat me down and they were like, "Hey, we want you to come to Russia for a secondary tryouts," it was no questions asked. Absolutely, I'll be there. Um, and so when I went there, they made you play one-on-ones against everybody on the team already. And I went
Okay.
through and I beat everybody in the one-on-ones. Beat Malloy, beat Sergey, beat Mishka, beat Fedorov. I beat everybody that was on the team.
Did you
Uh,
practice a ton of one-on-ones growing up? Was that like a big part of your?
Yeah, that was a big part of my regiment, growing up.
Okay.
Like, when the DC
Yeah.
Dev days, we played a
Yeah.
ton
Yeah.
of one-on-ones because
Dude.
we didn't have a lot of paint, and paint, like, we were just kids in high school. So, like, paint was expensive. So one-on-ones were the best thing to, one, conserve paint, and, like, you can just, like, that was the way that we would get better, like, in terms of snap
Yeah.
Absolutely.
shooting.
I mean, it's imperative. Don't you agree that it has been one of the biggest cornerstones of your game, like being able to?
Absolutely. I love
Yeah,
that any team, like Impact or whoever that I'm on, that can count on me in clutch situations when it comes down to a one-on-ones. And I would hope that, in the situations where it comes down to a one-on-one, like in those overtimes, that I would be the one called on to that. Cause I mean, that's what I worked so hard for, right? So, like, like, so those, I trained my whole life to win one-on-ones.
well, that's a
Um,
huge bit for the listeners. Is like they always are wondering, what can we be doing? Well, that's a great way to get really good, quick, do a lot of one-on-ones, and play the people who are supposed to beat you, and lose a lot until you
yeah,
figure out how not to lose, and then it becomes like mind games. Then at a certain point, it's just,
absolutely.
you
That's
know,
what it does. It
yeah,
becomes, and play different styles. Like, for anyone who's listening, who's like is coming up, like, how do I get better? Play different styles of one-on-ones. Try to
yeah,
learn to play defensive, learn to play aggressive, try to play that in between, find what works for you, in terms of that one-on-one, because then you need to be able to be great at all of those situations, because not everyone is going to play the same. Like, Marcelo is going to play a different one-on-one style than Tyler would. So how am I going to be able to play against that guy? Right? You
yeah,
need to be able to come with every different scenario, but in the beginning, find what works for you. Because at
hmm
those levels, at those divisions, no one knows how you play. No one
yeah,
knows your tendencies. At our level, we know everyone's tendencies. We know how each other play, so it's easy to prepare for. But at your level, be the best at what you can be. If that's being aggressive, be the best at that. If it's playing defensive, be the best at that. Don't practice anything else until you get comfortable with that. Then you start branching off.
Yeah,
Totally.
and you're playing the player and also the shot clock situation, depending on what the game situation is,
Yes.
what the time is. You have to dictate how your style is off of the clock as well. So you're
Mhm.
playing a bunch of different layers of the game, and you, like Justin
I
said
love
perfectly,
one-on-ones.
yeah, you got to be able to play
Yeah.
every different facet of the game. Yeah.
Just if you're coming up, just get really good at the mechanical skills. Because if you're not good at the mechanical skills, no pro team will pick you up in the first place. Because every pro team believes that they can teach you the experience and how to fit in the mold of their team, whatever that may look like, whatever team you go to. But if you don't have the mechanical skills, no team will ever pick you up in the first place. So get your
Mhm.
mechanical skills dialed in. That's snap shooting, that's running and gunning, that's shooting on the break. If you can't do those three things or one of them really, really well, there's not many chances for you.
Mhm. Yeah, and diving back into the Russian Legion experience,
Mhm.
like what was that like? So you made the team, and then you guys are rolling.
Yeah, so okay, so after that tryout and when I went to Russia, they gave me the contract and they asked me to be on the team. Of course, obviously I said yes. Um and then I had to stay there for 10 weeks. They said I can split it up into however much I wanted, but I had to be there a total under my contract to be in Russia for 10 weeks. So I went 4 weeks and I went 6 weeks. So I went over two different trips. So I went there for a month, and then I went there for a month and a half. And I absolutely hated it. I hated it, but I loved it at the same time. I loved it when I was playing paintball, and I hated it because I was by myself. I went over. Everybody got to choose whenever that they, all the times that they went over, and I unfortunately didn't go over when all the other American guys were there. They coordinated like when they were going to go over, and I was just like, well, these times work best for my school, and so like this is all I can do, really, right? So
Damn. Okay.
so when I went over, I was there by myself, so I had to stay like in the barracks at the field, and there was no there was no internet at all. So like I was secluded from the world and just like my thoughts. And that was at the time when you had those portable DVD players.
Yeah,
Um, so I had to bring like a whole, the whole
book.
bookcase of DVDs to and bring books and all kinds of things to just like get me through the nights when I wasn't playing. Because even when we were playing, like the days were sometimes long. Like our regiment was, we would wake up, we would drill in the morning, and then we'd rest for an hour, and then we would actually work out, do fitness, like around that time. Then we would eat lunch, and then we would we would need to get ready for like 30 minutes, and then we would do scenarios. Um, and that would we would do that all 5 days of the week. So that was Monday through Friday. That was my regiment. Every single day I would wake up, like that's what I did every single day.
That's
um
nuts, dude. It's fucking super cool.
and it was awesome. Like I loved it. Like that's exactly where I wanted to be. Like that's exactly what I wanted to be doing. Like to be able to play paintball every single day was so like I tried to do that at home. It was impossible
Right,
because
right, right.
the fields would either like take the field down, let the grass grow. Like they wanted, like they wouldn't just let you go out there anytime you wanted and like, and play. Like it was really hard. Like I would have to go out on like a Thursday, blow up the field myself, or on a Friday. And so that it would go through the weekend, and then I'd have to take it down again on Sunday. And so like, that's what I did to play like during the week. So being able to play, you know, every day was a dream come true. And I got so good so fast because, again, I ate, slept, and literally dreamed paintball every single day for 10 weeks straight. And even it's not like I stopped when I got home. It wasn't like, oh, well, I'm done playing because I played so much. I was still playing like 4 days a week, even when I got home. So I got so good so fast because I was I was literally playing 5 times more or 4 times more than everybody else every single week. People weren't playing back home. Like no one was playing that much. Nobody. So just like my raw talent and hard work enabled me that I propelled past everybody else because of what I was doing. And like I never like everything, every snapshot, every shot on the break, every one-on-one, I gave 110% because when I was there, it was still I am the best on this field and I need to prove that to everybody else because I was proving it to them, proving it to the coaches. It was they were very strict by the numbers. They they watched everything that we did in terms of if a game during practice if a game came down to a one-on-one, if we won that one-on-one, if we lost that one-on-one, how many people we shot on the break, how many times we got shot on the break. Everything that we did on the field was looked at, critiqued, micromanaged, and put into a stat. We were just stats on that team. We were just stats. And all the stats don't lie, right? Like if you're dying on the break a lot or you're dying after the break, like one of their biggest things that they looked at was if you got to your spot and then died and how quickly you died. That played a big factor in whether you were getting shots on the field or whether you were getting playtime. So like all of those stats were very meticulous, very well thought, and they would run drills specific to how those stats would revolve from a game standpoint. And it was my first taste of like real professionalism and like in terms of like how to get better as quickly as possible and the things to work on that help you get better in terms of that. Or a lot of people, they just go out there and they play 5-on-5s and they just play games and that's it. And they're like, oh, well, I did. And I'm getting better because I'm playing that. That's not, well, in reality, that's not how you get better, right? You take those things from your drills and then you incorporate those and then that's how you get better. But if you're not doing anything before that, there's just nothing to work on.
100%. You have to set up situations and be thoughtful in your preparation. You know, it's not just going through the motions, and you will get better. Like you said, you will get better if you're playing better people and you're getting that game experience, but really trying to recreate what kind of things you could see in the event or what kind of deficiencies you might have, putting yourself, I had a season with the Russians as well. And like one of my favorite drills, I guarantee you did this drill. One of my favorite drills that they would do was I called it the comfort drill. Not really sure what they called it, but they would find a spot on the layout that is going to be like a can or a center tower, or just a spot that's going to get tight. And they put you in that spot and they have two players on like opposing 50-yard line bunkers, and you gunfight one of them. You have to gain dominance, and then you have to switch and you have to gunfight the other one. No one can move, but you get comfortable playing really tight, being able to gunfight from a spot where you definitely don't have an advantage.
And then being able to that drill. It's
my favorite drill.
That drill.
Hell yeah. Love to hear that. It's my favorite drill. It's like you really start to just get that confidence and comfortability in a really shitty situation. And you know what? That's how tournaments are won.
Yes.
To win a tournament, you have got to win the points that you're supposed to win. You got to win those, but you also have to win points you're not supposed to win. That's how you win an event. Like you execute well on the points where you have an advantage, right? And then you pull out some points where you shouldn't win. And that comes from being comfortable in a shitty situation,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that you see the best teams that are doing those top 4 teams, they're so good at winning down body situations. You got Heat Dynasty. Damage is really good at it. Impact is so good at it. Like those teams win constantly because they can pick up those down body situations. Like it's one of the coolest things, like as a player, to be able to win as well. Like coming off of that gets everybody fired up. You get that momentum, and it's just like the other team, you just lose it. You know that they've lost the match at that point. The game's over.
It's demoralizing.
Momentum's
demoralizing. It really is.
Yeah. And something too that I with all the with the teams that I work with, I try to really get across too. Even if you lose the point, if you make it really fucking difficult for the other team, like if they have a 4-on-2 situation, but they can't win it easily, it takes them 3 minutes to win. Now, obviously, look, if you're, this is kind of public knowledge with all the top teams. If you're down points and it's a 2-on-4, you better attack, get out of the point. Everybody understands that.
Yeah.
But if that's not the scenario, right? If you're up points and a team is 4-on-2 and it takes them 3 or 4 minutes to close it out, they don't feel as good about that point. They're like, man, it was 4-on-2 and we still couldn't dig these guys out. Like this is a grinder. It's a tough match, so being hard to kill in those kind of scenarios, I mean, that also is a part of momentum,
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Love the game, dude. I can't wait to get back to competing. I can't wait for this layout to drop.
All this talk is like making me like super excited. Like I want to go grab my gun and just snap shoot in the mirror for like an hour.
Yeah. So speaking of this, dude, how do you feel about blind layouts? I know we kind of touched on it. Would you prefer in the pro division to have blind layouts or have a layout released?
Prefer? No. I think it would be cool if they did, maybe like if there was 5 events a year, do one. Maybe do one per year or whatever. But then like
one layout for the whole season?
Yeah.
One blind layout, you mean?
Yeah, one blind layout for the whole season.
Gotcha.
Everything else is standard, and then you just kind of throw it in, whether it's mid-season or whatever, and you shake it up a bit.
Too.
You shake it up a bit.
With that.
I wouldn't feel comfortable in saying everything goes to blind layout, because I wouldn't want that. Obviously, you adapt and you adjust. Like if that's what they said, you go, okay, well, what can I do to be the best at this, right? And like you prepare differently. But like playing, like doing your process would be very different. What it would look like, I'm not really sure, because like we've been preparing kind of like the same when we get those layouts. Every layout is different, so you prepare differently for that layout, but the process is pretty much the same. So like, how do you really practice for an event that you don't know, that you don't really know what's going on, right? Yeah, you can
totally, dude.
You can just go out there and you can play paintball, but again, we just established that going out there and playing paintball doesn't help you really get better. So,
dude, I fucking love you. we've been having this battle on PTG for a while, dude, and it's just the professionalism of having a layout to me is so important to our game. Like I love those 2 weeks leading up to the event. I think it's so unique that it changes each event and each tournament has its story. I also think that, the more time an experienced team has with the field, the more separation they create. Whereas some of the people that are for blind layouts argue that all a layout release does is give less experienced teams more time to just sit there and shoot lanes and like figure. In a way, yes, but the experienced teams create more separation the more time they have with that field.
Yeah. That goes back to what we were talking about before. They just don't know. They don't have that player. They don't have that coach to be like, hey, this is how you break it down. They just don't have that. So like, it's hard for them to continue to get there. But yeah, I digress. I think the question, the real question would be, how do you guys feel about the asymmetrical field of Dallas? That's the real question, because most of what we played is symmetrical, right? So that asymmetrical field, I looked at it and I was like, I don't know. Like, so how do you guys feel about that?
I don't like it simply because it originally looked like, oh, this is going to be chaotic and exciting. And there was one cool story. The cool story was Snake players versus Dorito players that you don't normally see. But other than that, the field itself was redundant, right? You had the same story on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's actually not that exciting. It ended up just being kind of ring around the rosy. Whereas I think a traditional field is really fascinating. You have like the Snake side develops, the center develops differently. And then the Dorito side, it has its own story, And so there's like all these things going on a traditional field. Whereas this one, it was the same thing on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like the asymmetrical field. I didn't play it, but I did not like the way it broke down from what I watched. And I watched a lot of games from that event. I just didn't like the way it broke down. I think, like you said, the story is just the same. Like you get to that spot and then it just stopped. It literally the game kind of like stopped. And it was like, it was broken down through the middle and then things kind of opened up from there. but I don't know. I didn't like. I hope that they don't continue to do asymmetrical fields.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch in the first couple days how people were still figuring out. Everyone was
Because it was
learning.
blind.
Yeah. So everyone's learning on the cusp. I think
Yeah.
this field, if you were to give this field 2 weeks, would have been a nightmare. Like if they did this asymmetrical with
Yeah.
a bunch of reps on it, you're going to see the same type of thing. But it was really interesting to watch it develop in those first couple days. And then as we entered into Sunday, we had a good sense of the flow. And
Right.
it would be
Yeah.
like the universe almost, like it was like a galaxy just spinning around. You would get this guy going in this way, and then, like you said, breaking it open through the middle. So it did kind of show itself at the end there, but it was
Yeah.
it was cool to watch people learn on the fly. I did enjoy that part.
Yeah, I think that was exciting. The first day was exciting to watch, and then it just like come Saturday, like you still had like a tiny touch of that, and then but it broke down
Mm-hmm.
super quickly. Imagine if that field had that 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
it would be so boring because there was really only one option you could play that field,
Totally.
right? Everyone, if you didn't play, and usually like come tournament, even on Sunday, you have like that pocket play that you have like, okay, hey, we can throw this in whether we're up or down. It's an option that we have. That field didn't have that. Everyone did the exact same thing, and you can make the argument of the other fields kind of the same thing, but every team has like that pocket player, like we can do this. This is different. There's these options. That field didn't have those options. It
Mm-hmm.
really didn't have those options.
Yeah, I appreciate the
Agreed.
creativity, and I love that, they're
Yes.
keeping us on our toes. I think Trosen has been doing a great job of creating fields, and just the paradigm of the league as a whole has definitely kept everyone on their toes with what they've got going on. So it's been interesting, and we'll see what they throw at us next. We'll see very soon
Yeah.
here.
Just as long as it's not asymmetrical, Tro,
Yeah.
if you're listening, someone tell him.
All right. Hey, we got the whole PTG world, our Discord chat. We're going to dive into some questions from them. And thank you so much for rocking with us. This has been a long haul. We're at the home stretch
Hell
here. We're
yeah,
coming
brother.
up at 3 hours, but we appreciate every minute that you're sharing with us, all the insights and all the good times, man, all the
Absolutely.
stories. That's what it's
Absolutely.
all about. Marsh, do you want to go first or?
Yeah. The first question was from Papa Sash. I just we're not going to answer it, but he goes, "What the hell is going on with Latin Saints?" I think that's funny. We already answered all that, but
Yeah,
it's
I
just
think
kind of
we
funny.
answered that one.
Yeah. Then he goes, then he goes, actual question. He made his name as a killer on Russian Legion during a dominant era for the team. What impact did they have on the direction of the sport, and what is the most important thing you learned from their system?
Um, or what was the question again? My dog was literally jumping all over me, trying to get me to go
No, it's
out.
okay. What impact did Russian Legion have on the direction of the sport, and what's the most important thing you learned from their system?
I think the most important thing that I learned from their system is that stats matter, right? A lot of people will just be like, oh, well, this guy has done this, so we trust in him to continue to do it. But these stats matter, and watching film matters. No other team that I've been on, but previous to Russians, and even after until I got to Impact, that we're watching film. No one was watching film, and we were
Yeah.
watching film of ourselves, and that really helps you kind of like see that bird's eye view, because a lot of times, like when you're in the moment, you think something goes away the way you thought it
Yeah.
went, but then when you look at it and you're like,
Yes.
holy shit, that
Totally.
did not go any way that I thought that it went. And then
For
you just
sure.
you kind of look like a liar because you told that guy like, "Hey, this is
Yeah.
how it went. This is what I did because of this," and then it doesn't happen that way, and it creates that accountability for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
For the team,
Absolutely.
for yourself, an individual, and then it helps everybody who could possibly be playing that spot as well. Because when it comes practice and you're filming yourself, um, no one's role is set yet, right? No one's role is set. So when you're trying to figure out your role and where you're going to play, it helps everybody else in saying, okay, like this spot has these problems from this, it has their advantages from that. You can find that out through film, and they were doing things that just nobody else was doing, and that's why they win
Absolutely.
on that run. That's why they were going on runs well before even I got on the team, and why they were doing so well is because they were doing things that everybody else wasn't. And that's what helped evolve, every few years. And I've talked about this on my team and a lot of people that, that I'm close with. Every like 5 years or so in paintball, the game shifts and it evolves, right? And
Totally.
Russians were able to push that to that next level, and then you had the next team that step up, and then Impact did the same thing, and then they pushed the game to that next level. It constantly evolves. I don't think that we've seen that shift just yet. I think we're still in like a that team paint. Whoever's playing that best team paintball right now is usually winning the tournament, and that was the evolution of how Impact was winning. We haven't seen that shift just yet, but I think that we're close, right? I think the Saints and the way that they played really shifted that whole. And it sucks that we're not a team anymore, because I think that could have changed, that they could have then been that next evolution, but we haven't seen that shift just yet. I think right now, like, Dynasty after the first event, and even if you look at the minor event, Damage did it the best, right? And like those teams who are playing the best team paintball during that moment are the teams that win the tournament. So, but every 5 years or so, that evolution, that changes, and the team, whether it's a player or whatever it may be, changes the game, and then that team kind of goes on a run, and they do, they play at their best. I just don't think we've seen that change just yet. I think we're still in that same like 5 year stint of that evolution.
What do you think the next change is? Is it,
we always had this
fundamentally?
conversation. Yeah, it's like the thing is, like, when you go back before each evolution, no one can really figure out what that is. Like, no one's sitting there
course.
like debating, like, how do we change the game? Like, yes, we're constantly having that inner monologue. How do I propel the game to the next level? How do I change the game so we can be better? How can we win the next event? But that just kind of like progresses. That evolution just kind of progresses over time. But that conversation is always there. Like, whenever you're at at practice or at a tournament, you're having that conversation between your team and between yourself constantly. It is constantly being done. It's just you're not conscious of it, but you are doing that constantly. I don't know what that next evolution is. We'll see. I mean, I've had millions of conversations about this, but you can never predict
If
it's
we
like
knew we'd
predicting
be
the stock market.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You just can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially these
Big
days.
facts.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, especially these days.
All right.
I think it's
Hopefully
pretty
that
predictable
answered
these
your
days.
question.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah, dude. And we got Young Stevie. Shout out to Young Stevie. He's bossing PTG
Stevie.
World. Yep. He said, appreciate you taking the time to do PTG. If you had the ability to have a Pokemon follow you around at all times, which one would you pick and why?
I mean, probably Bulbasaur.
Bulba.
Probably Bulbasaur. It's been
Young Bulba.
Yeah, it's either between Squirtle or Bulbasaur. I mean, those, like, growing up,
Legendary.
even when I was streaming, when I was playing games a lot and I was streaming, I had a Bulbasaur, a little Pluffy or whatever in the webcam. So, like, Bulbasaur would probably be my guy.
Holding it down. Let's go.
Yeah.
Tight. Yeah. We got Randy McHugh Jr. He
Are
says,
these coming
J-Rap.
live right now?
Yeah. These are from our Discord, right? They're not listening to this show live.
Right.
But,
No, but you let them
they
know
knew
that I'm on here right now.
Yeah, dude,
Okay.
they're stoked. Like, when we said J-Rap's coming on, people were
Went
pumped,
crazy.
man. People
There was a riot.
they wanted you for a long time.
There was a riot.
I'm glad that I could cause riots.
Yeah. All right. So from Randy, J-Rap, can you briefly walk us through your prep for a layout or a specific match or player assignment?
Okay, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, that's a lot. There's a few
there's
there.
like
Yeah,
three
yeah,
really in-depth questions there. My process is getting into a flow state, and that starts at the practice. Mentally, in any professional environment, you need to be able to check out of everything else that is going on in your life. And we all have, we all have lives going on. We all have, family or whatever it may be. You might have, problems at your job or whatever it may be. But even if paintball is just a hobby to you, you should still be able to achieve a flow state. And what I mean by a flow state, it's being able to tune out everything else that's going on in the world. Forget about everything else, because in that moment, the only thing that should be in your mind is paintball, right? Once you fly home and you're back with your family or whatever that may look like to you, then you can, you live in that moment. But when you are there at the practice and the events, nothing else matters in the world except for what you're doing in that moment. So if you can be able to achieve that, and you literally tune everything out and get in that flow state where like nothing else matters and just you doing your job and envisioning what you're going to do on the field and what that looks like, um if you can achieve that, then one, that'll help. That's like the first step to being able to achieve what you want your short-term goals to be, like in terms of a practice, the tournaments, whatever it is. But my process is just that flow state, being able to fine tune my mental and literally just throwing myself and like diving into what needs to be done in like my job and like how I can be the best at this position or whatever it is, whatever the team relies on me to do, being able to tune everything out and just rely on that.
Yeah. That's
Hell
amazing.
yeah, dude. What a fucking phenomenal answer.
Yep. We got the Dorfster 420. Please ask J-Rab, as one of the best to ever do it, what do you believe is the most important aspect of being an on-field quarterback for you and your squad?
Okay, so that is probably the hardest question to answer, because each team requires a delicate process in terms of what that leadership looks like in terms of like what the leadership needed on the field, on the on-field quarterback needed for the Latin Saints compared to what Impact needs to compare to what Dynasty and Heat needs. That is like I said, is a very delicate process because it can be messed up very easily, right? And if you don't have that mesh from one side to the other, and that communication is broken down, and it's not perfect, because you need to be perfect to win a tournament. You need to be perfect. That's just the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
So if that communication is broken down and it's not perfect and it's not flowing correctly, then you won't see that success. You won't find those wins. You'll just see loss after loss. So it's a very hard question to answer, because your team, whoever, Chubby 420 said, his team is very different than my team. But for a general sense of being a quarterback on the field, I would say a very general term for it is just being able to get that communication from one side to the other. If you are the quarterback of the field, it's just pulling information from the Dorito side and then delivering it to the other side, and then taking what the snake side is telling you and then delivering it back, and being able to literally throw the ball to that side, receive it, and then throw it back to the other side and be able to toss that communication from one side to the other. That is the very basis in the general way that I can explain it. But to break it down is a question of it's an impossible question to answer, really.
It takes such
layers.
it takes such an extreme amount of experience to communicate at a high level. And that's what people don't understand. They think that it's just a vocal thing, or they say, how can I be louder, this and that. To really communicate well, you have to understand the game in its entirety. To be a good quarterback, you need to know the whole game plan, because if you lose somebody, that's when you communicate to take over that job. You direct people to do things, and that's all based on your understanding of the team's goal, the team's play, so it's a lot of extent. But I love what you said. It's a very, gather information from one side, deliver it to another. That is a great place to start. That's the core, of connecting the field.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to that question, because as a
Oh
quarterback,
yeah,
not only are you getting information from one side to the other, you need to be able to either in a matter of seconds, whether you're the guy to fill the hole or whether you need to tell someone else to fill that hole. And
totally,
if you don't do that in a
totally.
matter of seconds, you can lose the game because a guy gets
Yeah.
into the 50, you get shot or whatever it may be. Like, it is so delicate. That's why I use the term delicate, because it's a matter of seconds and whether a decision needs to be made. And like that experience, it's an impossible question. It really is. It's a
For
very,
sure.
very
Yeah.
tough question. It's a whole podcast on its own, really.
Yeah. Seriously.
It really is. Communication is like the most glaring reflection of experience.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah,
And so
it really is. Because
yeah.
it's not just yelling. It's not just yelling stuff. It's literally having. Honestly, I try to tell everyone this. It's have a Sunday conversation. Like when you're a Sunday conversation, when you're eating breakfast, what does that conversation look like to you? That's the
Mm.
conversation that you should have on the field with somebody in front of you, right? That's what that conversation should look like. Putting that together is just a
Hey,
Sunday
Bacon, where you
breakfast
at?
conversation. Exactly. Just a Sunday conversation.
uh, Bacon, where the bacon at? All right, we got we got Lettuce. J-Rab, you're known as being one of the most gun dominant players in the league. Can you talk about what it means to be a gun dominant player and how can divisional players practice this skill?
Okay, so what it means to be a gun dominant player is having the ability to not let a front player breathe. That's being gun dominant. If you make that front player's life a living hell, make them work so hard to get from one bunker to another, make it almost impossible, right? Make it almost impossible. So even if they did make it to that next bunker, have it in their head that when they're walking off the field, where they're struggling internally, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing this over and over again. Make them have that monologue in themselves, like, I don't know if I can keep, because if I keep trying to push it like I just did there, he's going to shoot me two or three times in a row if I keep trying to push it like that. There's no way I can get away with that again. I got lucky there. Like, he should walk
Totally.
off the field saying, I got lucky there.
That's similar
Or
to the
she.
like the 4-on-2 thing, right? Like make it really hard to win.
Yeah.
For the 4, the harder you can make it on the other team, obviously the better situation you're going to be in.
Because they will get frustrated, and then with frustration comes mistakes. And at the end of the day, you want the other team to make mistakes. It's a matter of whoever wins the tournament. It's a matter of who makes less mistakes, because everyone's making mistakes, and even in the finals, people are making mistakes constantly.
Yeah.
We strive to be perfect. We are making mistakes constantly. It's limiting those mistakes, and if you can frustrate a player into making mistakes, then you're in his head, first off, and two, you've achieved exactly what you want to be in that dominant frame. And that's what being a dominant gun is. It's not just shooting your gun and being dominant on the trigger. It's being dominant in a force and getting in their head mentally as well, because a lot of that rides on that. Right? You need to
Yeah.
frustrate that player into making mistakes, make his life a living hell where he has to second guess every snap and every move that he makes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Control the field. Shoot that
Yeah.
paint.
Absolutely.
All right. We got Fab. He's actually huge in the VR realms. You got to hop into the VR with the Oculus. There's some crazy paintball games going on in there. And,
Have you played those yet? Have you played them yet?
It's bonkers.
They're pretty cool. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
It's so much fun.
They still have a long way to go, I think, but I think that might even be the future. It's really cool, man.
It very well could. You never know.
Yeah.
He's wondering, always wondered with PE, Planet Eclipse, we see few people shooting the Ego LV, most operating the CS2. Why do you choose the Ego LV? And he was wondering, when are you going to come play some Snapshot VR?
Well, I don't have a VR currently, so I can't. There's no promises made on that one. So maybe one day I'll get it and then I'll hit you up.
It's a good time.
But I'm brain farting. What was the first part
LV,
again?
Like
Sorry. Okay, yep, the LV.
Mhm.
I chose the LV specifically when they came out with the first CS. I don't know if anyone remembers when the first CS came out. It was kind of chunky at the back. And for me, like snap shooting and having a dominant gun is really about vision for me. And I don't know, for some reason I just couldn't my vision, maybe it's the way that I look down the gun. I don't know exactly like how I do it. When I do it, I get behind the gun, I see it, and that's what it is. I don't really put much thought into it. But when I get behind the CS or the CS2, it's just too bulky for me, and I can't. The vision is just not there. It's not comfortable. And like you need to be comfortable with every piece of equipment that you use, and I just couldn't get comfortable with it. So when they got rid of the Geo and they came out with the CSs, I had to go to the Ego because of that. And many people love the gun, and many people love the gun a lot. But for me, it was a vision thing really, and I just couldn't get
I always
past
thought it was a shot thing for you.
No, it was a vision thing. Like the shot thing was a bonus really. The LV was a bonus because I did try to use the CS2. It was all a vision thing.
Interesting.
Totally, man. All right. I got one last question from Clint Riddle. He says, if you had the opportunity to sit down for dinner with 3 people, an athlete, a creative, and a historical figure, who would you pick and why?
An athlete, a creative. So my creative would probably be Banksy. I know no one knows who he is, so it'd be hard to sit down with him, but he would be my creative. The athlete would probably be, I mean, I'd have to say either Kobe or LeBron. I mean, it'd be tough with Kobe, but I mean, I meant instead of not LeBron, Jordan.
Of course. Yeah, okay.
Not LeBron. Jordan or Kobe. And I would put Kobe above. I think just like because I grew up more with him rather than Jordan, right? Yeah, I watched Jordan, but like during my time, like when I was growing up, Kobe was the guy, and like his work ethic, like when I was growing up, was just I tried to you try to mimic like your idols and like the way that their process, right? So, and then the last one was what a creative, an athlete,
historical figure.
Probably Alexander the Great.
Whoa.
Probably Alexander the Great. In terms of historical figure, I mean that dude, he did it all, man. He really did it all. I mean, he conquered everything. He conquered everything. Like he did some amazing things. So I think being able to sit down like with those 3, you get some really cool conversations, I think.
I think so. Really That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
That is a guarantee.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Well, hey, we went the distance. J-Rab, thank you so much for all of your insights. And thank you to the PTG world out there for tuning in. We can't wait to see you take the field. And good luck with you and the Impact Squad heading into practice here shortly. And we will be seeing you at the tournament. And I mean, just a matter of weeks here. It's not too far away.
Thanks for having me. I know I ramble on a little bit here and there, but I appreciate
That's all we
you guys
do.
being patient.
This was one of the better ones we've had, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Indeed, we'll have to have you back on, dude. Shit, you're a natural at this. It seems like you like it.
Absolutely. I love these things. I hate the lead up to it. I'm like, I don't want to do it, but once I'm on, it's like it's the best thing ever. I absolutely love these things. So
dude, we appreciate
I'll
you, and then
make an appearance.
Yeah, we need you back ASAP. And on signing out, any thanks or shout outs that you want to give, now's your chance.
I think the biggest thing I'd like to shout out is just Impact, Dave and Bart, for one, allowing me and Mouse to come back into the fold after we left. I think that was like the biggest thing to be grateful for and appreciative, and just having a job, because not every day is job security there, like especially in our sport. And if you're not producing, then job security is tough for us. So I appreciate the Impact Squad and Dave and Bart allowing us to come back into the fold and continuing to be a part of that team.
Awesome, man.
Awesome, brother.
Well, hey, man, we appreciate you.
Dude.
Mad love. J-Rab Story Database, PTG. Let's
Thanks,
go.
guys.
Out. Peace.
Peace.
All right, PTG fam, thank you guys so much for rocking with us. That episode was an absolute banger. We went the distance. That was a show that I thought could have went another hour or two. Justin is really interesting, and anytime you can sit down and talk to one of the greats, it's quite the pleasure. If you guys would like, head over to ptgpaintball.com, and you can listen to all of our episodes on there, watch all of our videos. If you would like to become a supporter of the show, you can click the Patreon link and get access to our Discord and a bunch of other really cool perks. Again, that is ptgpaintball.com. All right, everybody, as always, I will see you very soon.